Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the Daytona 24, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR schedule, such as the Daytona 500. We have events from disciplines all across the racing world, from the Indianapolis 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events utilize iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against every driver taking part. And as every race progresses, watch and feel the track change with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
"2026 is here, and with it, a brand new challenge, but at a very familiar place with many familiar faces. Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time for the first round of the new V8SCOPS season at Montreal, which, though it hasn't been the opening round for every season, I like to think of as the traditional opening track of the championship. We've got a lot to talk about coming into this brand new season, and the debut round beginning with Split 2 action, with Split 1 to follow later on. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick, also live on the V8SCOPS and Aussie Online Gaming socials. It's myself, Reese Gardner, with David Haynes alongside me in the commentary box. Jay Kennedy is behind the scenes handling production and bringing you these beautiful pictures of this fantastic circuit on Ile Notre Dame in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. Fantastic stuff, David. I'm looking forward to getting this season started again. This is a real big tradition at this point. March rolling around and the first race of the season.
This is basically V8SCOPS Albert Park, isn't it, here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Montreal. High speeds, bunch of curbs to launch across, and of course the Wall of Champions. A lot of history around this place in terms of Olympics, Expo, World Expo, and of course Grand Prix racing, motor racing, and lots of great competition.
For sure. We'll zoom on in to Quebec, Montreal. One of the biggest cities in Canada, and for many, Montreal is the cultural center of Canada. Lots of fantastic architecture and incredible potential for motor racing. You mentioned Expo 67, this man-made island of Ile Notre Dame. Originally site of the World's Fair, but turned into a racetrack in the late 1970s when the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix moved away from its shared state of Mosport and Mont-Tremblant. 4.36 kilometers in length. It's got 14 corners, and will have plenty of potential for overtaking at a lot of these turns, particularly L'Épingle, the turn 10 hairpin. But I think everywhere around this circuit is a passing opportunity. We've seen just about every corner be the site of some kind of action over the years.
Absolutely, and with these cars that we're going to see in Split 2 and Split 1, they love to leap across some curbs, and that occasionally gets you in trouble with track limits in some of these chicanes. Places like a little bit of turns 3 and 4, definitely the big whopping apex curb at turn 8, and 13 and 14, there is a millimeter line between incredibly quick and they say you've cut the course. So a few of those things to keep an eye on then, and of course big braking zones into turn 10, into turn 13, into turn 1, as well as a bit of a curved braking zone as you break through 1 to position yourself for that hairpin at turn 2.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we've got, as I said, a lot to talk about. First off, the schedule for this season's championship. We're, of course, starting tonight at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Round 2 in a couple of weeks. It's taking us to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, so it's a doubleheader in Canada to start off the season. We head to Road Atlanta for the Anzac round of the championship before we head on over to Detroit, to Belle Isle for the first street circuit of the season. Making its debut in V8SCOPS competition, the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the 5th round of the championship before we head to Phillip Island, which is not hosting an endurance round this season, David.
No, we go to Portland as well, Winton and Circuit of the Americas. So getting full rotation of the Australian tracks in, of course, because you've then got the triple of the enduro rounds beginning 500 kilometers at Shelby Power Motorsports Park, the Bend West, which is one of the slightly shorter layouts. There are plenty of layouts, some of them a little shorter, some of them very long. And Sandown for 500 Ks, an absolute classic. Kind of thing you'd love to see in the real world, maybe even. You'll get it here in 2026 V8SCOPS. And then, of course, 1,000 kilometers of Mount Panorama circuit to close out the enduro calendar. And then the streets of Adelaide as a season finale and championship decider for Australian tracks to bring us home at the back end of the calendar.
Yeah, indeed. Nice to see Adelaide on the calendar. It's practically a given that it will be put on there, one of the newest circuits to iRacing. I'm looking forward to Portland in particular as well. That's one of my favorite tracks, actually. So it'll be really interesting to see how the drivers tackle that. Last season's championship worked out in the favor of Jake Maloney, the number 29 for Trans-Tasman Racing. And Trans-Tasman had an incredibly good season, locking out the top 3 in the championship standings with Brady Myers and Madison Down, and also Anderson, Jones and Burton, 7th, 8th and 9th. We had some fantastic performances from William Sapstead over the season as well. The number 81 getting himself into P10 overall. Last season's champion James Scott, the 24 champion, James Scott, unfortunately did not have the title defense that he was expecting. So be quite interesting to see what he can do from here.
Race the years start coming and they don't stop coming. It's 2026. Last year was 2025.
Yeah.
And you're talking about 2024. And of course, it all begins with a clean slate here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve this year.
That it does. The final teams championship standings see Trans-Tasman Racing on top by a long way. Over 4,000 points difference between Trans-Tasman and Vermilion Esports, with Evolution Racing Team, Phoenix Racing Team, and Chiefs Esports Club, with James Scott most of the time being the sole driver for that team, getting into the top 5. Some good performances from Synergy Sim Racing and Eclipse Sim Sports as well. WKNP and Rapid Theft were always a factor in the midfield and the back end of the top 10 as well. So with a lot of teams, a lot of team changes happening over the course of the off season. I'm sure we're going to be seeing quite the mix-up.
Yeah, these cars have been around a little while now as well. Last year, I believe, was the first season of the Gen 3's first full season. So now everyone gets accustomed to what you've got to do as a team to set these cars up, how you've got to drive these cars to make them quick, and strategically how you use the way that they wear their tires and the sometimes large fuel tanks that they have.
Eclipse Sim Sports won the Endurance Cup last season. Zach Rattray White teaming up with James Scott in the Eclipse number 17. With Vermilion Fury, Wayne Burke and Leo Duncan getting second place in the Endurance Cup. That was a very impressive performance from them. Maloney, the eventual season champion, and Brady Myers teaming up in Trans-Tasman Racing and rounding out your top three there. Once again, it's a case of Trans-Tasman Racing and Synergy Sim Racing making up the bulk of the top 10, but we have seen quite a few surprises thrown up by a lot of those driver pairings, so let's see what the Endurance Cup brings us this season. We're going to have to wait quite a few months for that, but we'll have all of it live here on SimSpeed TV to figure things out going forward. Well, we're now in the last few minutes of the warm-up session for Split 2. It's very cool conditions out there today, just coming up to 8:30 a.m. in sim time, and it is looking rather frosty. It's March in Canada, and so it's still a little bit cold, or it's getting a little bit cold as they start preparing for winter. Only 19 degrees Celsius track temperature, but quite a bit of humidity in the air, relative humidity at 95%, so we're seeing a bit of fog out there today.
You say March in Canada, but I do the time zone conversion, and it's 2 a.m. on February the 29th in Canada. It's still winter.
True. In the real world. But Jay in the background pointing out that in 2026 there was no February 29.
Which is my point. It's March 1st. But February's a short month. It's almost basically still February.
Okay, all right. Okay, I understand. This is March weather, Jay says in the background.
But he misquotes The Simpsons because he said stupid instead of lousy. It's March weather.
Yes, indeed. Well, we'll find our way to the format for today. Split 2, of course, the shorter of the two races we're going to be seeing today. 23 laps with a 50-minute time limit, and we may go time certain if we have a couple of safety cars, which is always a possibility at this track and at the first round of the new season. 50% fuel tank restriction for the cars, which means they won't be able to quite make it to the end. One compulsory pit stop will be required between laps 2 and 22, and you should expect the drivers to change all 4 tyres at that pit stop, because while there have been a few updates to the tyre model on these cars, the basic characteristics remain the same. They are good right out of the box, but partway through the stint, they will start to lose pace, and it's very easy to overheat them. I think the drivers will be happy to see the track temperature so cold that it'll help them out in that respect.
Pre-qualifying for this round of V8SCOPS was fiercely competed. Of course, everyone wants to be in the top drivers that make Split 1 based on their lap times from pre-qualifying, but those that don't make that cut are here in Split 2, and even then Split 2 was fully subscribed and there were drivers who almost missed out on the cut for this. So I'm seeing, with this great participation and everyone excited for the new season, some names that we haven't said much on SimSpeed TV before. I note Tomoyasu Inatane in 13th in this practice session at the moment, as I notice some of the interesting flags that stand out. Dean Logsdale's flying the flag of England, not of the United Kingdom, but of England. There's 2 American flags out there for Ryan Shelton and Stacey Boyd, and top of this warm-up session is Sebastian Vandel with the flag of the Netherlands, and then of course, as we're used to seeing, many flags of Australia and New Zealand, which are tough to tell apart when they're rendered at 10 pixel width. I wish New Zealand had gone for that laser-powered Kiwi.
Yeah, that would have been good indeed. Top Kiwi in the session is Trent Bennett for the moment, who sits in P9 at the moment on a 137.19. Varndell, McLean, Emily Jones, and Jaden Green, our top four, all dipping into the 1:36s, but it's mighty close at the front of the field. There's mere hundredths separating these drivers, as we see late improvements happening for Matthew Morris there, getting up into P15, but no qualifying session for Split 2. The grid is set by the pre-qualifying results. 120 drivers attempting pre-qualifying, and a grand total of 153 on the entry list. It's also good to see that Ryan Shelton has returned to the championship, running the flag of the USA. Ryan is one of the Americans that competed quite a bit in the supercars back in the day. Last time he was here was in 2016 when he raced in Top Split at Interlagos. But here's the grid for the race to come. Kenneth Latter for Fishy Motorsports will start on pole position with Jackson Dial and Project 36 number 5 starting on the front row with him. Chris Coxhead and Andrew Dutch are third and fourth, with Thomas Freeman and Matthew Morris rounding out the top 6. Kane Kugamiya also makes a return, another long-time competitor from back in the day. Jaden Green is alongside him. Then it's Emily Jones for Trans-Tasman Racing in P9, with Tomoyasu Inatani rounding out the top 10. Ryan Mueller for Pacific Esports Racing is 11th, and the 6th row rounded out by WKMP Sim Sports' Billy Mole.
13th on the grid will be Mark Poynton, alongside him Justin McLean, Brad Vaughan in 15th, Ian Shu in 16th, Thomas Hinz in 17th, and Sean Vandermeulen in the 18th position. There's Dylan Walker in 19th, Sam Cullen 20th, Clinton Smith in 21st, Lachlan Pryke in 22nd, Jack Andrews begins 23rd, and Stacey Boyd is in 24th.
Starting out at 25th place, Michael Stewart has got Trent Bennett alongside him. Aaron Gilbert, the champion of the V8 support category last 2 seasons running, 27th alongside William Morgan. And then we have Troy Stonestreet and Ryan Shelton rounding out the top 30. Kevin Norman is behind him with Dean Logsdale alongside. Robbie Tomei starting 33rd alongside Sebastian Varndell. Then Harry Lawrence for the Impact Sims by Racers team has the 18th row with Ethan Johnson.
44 V8 supercars in this server. Billy O'Reilly is 37th. Roger Forbett is in 38th. On the grid, Liam Milner 39th. Harry Dodds in 40th. And then Blake Fitz in 41st, Ryan Nielsen in 42nd. Last 2 drivers are Scott McKenzie and Justin Wallace, will be starting all the way back in 44th, potentially on the Casino Straight.
Yeah, a bumper field to start off the season, and well, you can't see the back of the grid from this angle, but I am happy to report that they are all on the start-finish straight, but not by much. Justin Wallace right there at the back of the field alongside the Wall of Champions. He's got quite a bit of distance to cover if he wants to get, let alone into the top 10 here. Just a few seconds remaining on the grid timer, and we'll see now what Kenneth Latter can do here, starting from pole position at Montreal. Fishy number 269 will lead us into the first turn potentially, as long as he gets the start down. Revs rise, and we are away for the first Split 2 race of the season. That's a poor start from Jackson Dial. Looks like Chris Coxhead falling back as well. Got a car on the grass too on the way into turn 1. It's Tomoyasu Inatani. Latter will lead into the first turn. Andrew Dutch making his way up to second as the field scrambles to make its way through the opening corners. Cold tyres, cold brakes, got to be very careful. Some contact in the midfield as they make their way through the twisties for the first time.
3 wide, hold your breath, the walls are very close. This is a street circuit, there's just enough space beyond the pavement sometimes to get yourself in trouble. Second and third from the standing start didn't get away well, so that's Dial and Coxhead losing spots. Andrew Dutch has gone up in second, but for Ken Latter, he has executed that perfectly. Top 20 or so, still racing cleanly for the moment.
Yeah, we have some nice gains being made from many drivers further back. I'm seeing 6 places up for Harry Lawrence thus far. Looks like he's the hardest charger of them all. Kenneth Latter, thus, is the only car to still be in the same position he started in there. With Stacey Boyd down in 24th, just keeping himself there as well. Down to the hairpin for the first time, and they've already formed roughly into single file. Ryan Mueller making the move on Matt Morris to move his way up into P8. And now the first lap will duly be complete. One more lap to go until the pit window opens. Does anyone want to come into the pits early?
Kevin Norman and Harry Lawrence dropping down the field quickly. I had my eyes on someone else who got shoved wide at the hairpin a bit deeper in the field. Oh, and that is wide. Into the wall of champions just behind Emily Jones. Chris Coxhead's made some pretty serious contact. But what a start for Emily Jones. Bombed around the outside of turn 1, just got it back onto the track at turn 2. And from deeper on the grid, she's now up into 6th.
Yeah, very nicely done indeed. 3 spots gained so far. Blake Fitz is the biggest gainer now, has made up 10 places off the start, as I see Jaden Green falling down the order. I think he might have picked up a slowdown, either that or he was hit off deep into
Black flag.
Yeah, indeed. Slowdown for Jaden Green. So now that's down 10 spots for him. And there's racing going on behind him there. Jack Andrews and Sean Vandermeulen side by side. And oh, dearie me. Looks like Vandermeulen getting a little sideways. Michael Stewart getting pushed back as a result. All of this in the battle for just outside the top 20.
Plenty of panels rubbing. We're going to go side by side into here. And there's not going to be space for either of them to make the turn.
Oh, no! That's a huge crash there. Fortunately, the group makes their way around, but Vandermeulen and Boyd are stopped. So is Clint Smith. I think this might be the first safety car of the V8SCOPS season on its way.
Well, the car backwards, you've got to see if they've got an engine. Both of these don't have the red or the yellow light flashing in the rain light position. It's the other car, you're like, do they have an engine? And I think everyone does. They've gone into the wall, but it's lower speed on the exit of the corner there. Messy stuff across the grass. Messy going in. They both outbraked each other. And then across the grass, the rejoin was very, very rough.
Yeah, Clint Smith trying to take the position from Sean Vandermeulen, sending him wide there into the corner. And it was from quite a long way back. Unfortunately, Vandermeulen did lose control on the grass. It's quite difficult to get these cars back under control. Well, looking a bit further back here to the Team Jinx Shifters car of Chris Coxhead, who, as we remember, fell back off the initial start. We will see him try to make a recovery. Meanwhile, this is what happened to Harry Lawrence on the first lap at the hairpin. A bit deep into the corner and ends up hitting one car off there and spinning at the apex. That resulted in a little traffic jam for drivers at the back.
Yeah, another car spins on the exit of the corner. You saw a concertina line that almost came to a complete stop on the way into the hairpin, and a few cars needed to get it sorted out. A couple of big slowdown penalties coming in as well that are costing these drivers heaps of spots. Tomoyasu Inatane just served one, I think cost him 6th position. So if you do cut one of these chicanes, when you give the 2-second slowdown, racing like this, it means you're giving up 5, 6 or more positions sometimes. You've got to abide those track limits when you can.
Yeah, absolutely. The off-tracks and slowdowns at Montreal are famously brutal. Thomas Hins alongside Tomoyasu Inatani then, and Brad Vaughan trying to make his way a bit further forward as well. Got Thomas Hins on his outside, but he'll defend the position into the chicane. Hins avoids getting into the wall of champions, but that gives a big run to Inatani and Jaden Green as well. Project 36 Mustang, quite distinctive there. With the Roman numerals on the side, as it looks like another Project 36 car has had problems. I think that might be Jackson Dial.
We've got some lap down cars now with some damaged cars that have had to pit, so that's also factoring into this. Take a look at what's happened for Jackson Dial though.
Yeah, so into turn 1, gets over the curb and looks pretty stable from there. But oh dear, that is a bit of a loss of traction there out of turn 2. These cars, of course, a little bit more difficult to drive in some ways than the previous generation. It's a big downforce cut for these cars. They rely a lot more on mechanical grip, and you'll note whenever we go on, the drivers are often running in a slightly higher gear in corners. Corners that were taken in second gear in the Gen 2s, they'll take them in third in the Gen 3s, just because it's so difficult to put the power down. Flash from Kane Kugamiya, former V8SCOPS Bathurst 1000 winner, as he tries to chase down Emily Jones for the last spot on the podium. Jones now up 6 positions, as is Ryan Mueller in P5, and this is really crucial. This is the chance for drivers to race further today as Kugamiya gets into the wall of champions slightly. The top 3 from this race will advance to Split 1. They have the option of competing in the main game.
These cars are about tyres, tyres, and tyres. Even though we've got a cool track, you wear the tyres out quickly on this car. You heat them up with all the load you put through them. We're in the compulsory pit stop window. You've got to make one in this race. So take a look at this. Oh, that rejoin is something to behold. I think it even crashed our director's PC, not just a couple of the cars. And yeah, we're within the compulsory pit stop window, but when you think about pitting now, you think about a long distance to go on a set of tyres, and then if there is a safety car and someone on even 5-lap fresher tyres is underneath your rear wing on the restart, you'll be sitting like a duck, or maybe standing like a duck on a frozen lake.
Yes, and not being able to get much traction with your flippers. Billy Mole making up a spot on Matt Morris in the background there, as that's a change for P8. It looks like Dylan Walker for Momentum Racing falling down the order. That may be a slowdown for him, either that or he lit the tyres up on the run out of the second chicane. Back down to 26th place now as the battle between Mole and Morris for P8 continues. My goodness, the amount of cars taking up this racetrack. It's like a pack of sardines as Aaron Gilbert gets up the inside of William Morgan, and this may be the opportunity for Dylan Walker to make up a couple more of those positions. He'll have the draft off Aaron Gilbert in the inside.
Can almost bump draft here, but the right lane is winning, and he's following that, which will be the inside, which is absolutely where you want to be coming into the chicane. But he thinks, no, I'll drop back in line. I don't want to get in here hot. Cut that second curve in particular. Get a slowdown penalty. It's actually also cutting the first curve that can get you into trouble. From Dylan Walker earlier in the race.
Yeah, so this is the same lap. This is the reason why he was falling down spots, trying to make the move on the 33 of Jaden Green, hitting him off there. And he was actually redressing the position there. So that will help him avoid the ire of race control for the most part. It has cost him quite a few positions, though. Dylan Walker down in 25th place now, and having qualified 19th, he will certainly want a few of those positions back, but it's still early runnings in this race. We've only just passed a quarter distance.
Yeah, a few drivers making big spots, so Emily Jones +6 into that top 3 is so critical. But you've also got Lachlan Pryke, who's mainly kept his nose clean, made 10 spots into 12th. Sebastian Vandel making 18 spots into 16th, and if you can keep it on the road when all of this other chaos happens, then big positions can be gained. Dylan Walker 25th at the moment behind Gilbert. Big braking zone here at the hairpin, but I feel like you almost don't want to do it because you would rather set them up to try to get a good drive off here and overtake into World Champions.
Yeah, it's such a tight hairpin that sometimes the outside line is better. Ryan Shelton on the outside for the exit of the hairpin doesn't quite get the run he needs, but he'll continue his campaign here. Back to his qualifying position of 30th, trying desperately to pass Billy Rowley and Harry Dodds, but looks like he's going to be the first driver to come in for a scheduled pit stop. The American has decided to throw a little spanner in the works here.
80 kilometers an hour is the pit lane speed limit here, and you get to cut turn 1 on the way out, though it is a longer NASCAR style pit lane based on when iRacing scanned this versus where the pit limit usually ends for Formula 1. I think the pit delta shouldn't be too bad here, given you also get to cut part of the final chicane as well. All that adding up to the pit lane loss not being too bad. Always about 10 seconds to change a set of tyres, and then there's however much fuel you think you've got to take.
Yeah, so Shelton's pit stop is already complete, and it's about 12.4 seconds. That's 1.5 seconds slower than what Michael Stewart could manage when he came in about 4 laps ago. So Shelton and Stewart currently leaders of the cars that have pitted, and the only drivers to have taken a scheduled pit stop thus far. You mentioned the time loss not being huge through pit lane, as there's a black flag there for car 981. That's Harry Dodds, who's who made contact with Troy Stonestreet on lap 1. So unfortunately, Dodds will have to make his way through the pits and not stop. This will be a good demonstration, actually, of the run into pit lane here, because it's in the braking zone for the final chicane, and I think Ryan Shelton might have lost out quite a bit here on the way in when he came in, because he was in the middle of a pack of cars. You brake a lot later. Meanwhile, my goodness, that is not ideal for Sean van der Meulen. He's been disqualified. Race control deemed that contact intentional.
Well, it's also a shame for everyone that he hit then, if that's how race control see it. And I guess I held back because he was on the grass and I wanted to give some benefit of the doubt, but apparently race control had a much closer look at it than us and decided there was not much doubt to give benefit to.
Yeah, that's not ideal for Sean van der Meulen. I think if we had seen the incident from on board, we might have had a clearer picture of it. But regardless, race control's decision has been made, and van der Meulen will be quite unhappy with that decision, I'm sure. But it's only the first round of the season, and there'll be plenty more to come and make things right from there. The field has spaced out a bit now. It's Kenneth Latter and Andrew Dutch battling for the lead, and Latter has shown that he's not quite able to keep Dutch at bay. There's been a few occasions I've been keeping my eye on them on my end, and Latter has run deep into these first corners a couple of times. He's managed to nail it this time round, but clearly Andrew Dutch is starting to put the pressure on.
Billy Mole with a black flag. Has that come from race control, or has that come from not giving up a slowdown? There's been so many slowdowns here, as we saw a year ago and as we thought might happen. So keep an eye on that. A couple of other drivers hitting. One thing I wanted to point out for Andrew Dutch here, he still has the fastest lap of the race. So all of these drivers that have pitted and put new tyres on aren't going quicker and setting new lap records just yet. The best strategy certainly will be to get a little closer to the halfway point before you pit. Let's say when we start lap 10, that is starting to get pretty close to the halfway point of this race. So that's, I'd say lap 10 is sort of my beginning of the window that feels sensible for contending top 10 cars.
Yeah, I agree. Round about the midpoint, the actual midpoint of the race will be halfway around lap 11. So we'll see the drivers find their way out of the hairpin here at the front. Kenneth Latter, I think, just focusing on preserving his tyres for the moment, because he'll still have a couple of laps, I think, to try to fend off Andrew Dutch. But Dutch is in a good position here at the moment. Potentially could undercut Latter by pitting a lap or so earlier. The both of them do take the chicane this time around, but as I mentioned, pit entry at Montreal. If you're that close behind Kenneth Latter, probably pitting with a car in front of you, not the greatest idea unless Latter comes in at the same time as you. First driver in the top 10 to come in, Billy Mole.
Penalty.
And that is the drive-through penalty that he collected for failing to clear a slowdown in time. We also saw Bradley Vaughan coming into pit lane, a 12.1 second stop for car number 80, as we'll see some side-by-side racing through the opening turns.
The marbles.
Yeah, the marbles are really not working out for Sebastian Vandel there.
Yeah, I thought the line out there wide could work, but then he found all sorts of dust. There was no grip there, even if geometrically the line made a little bit of sense. Got a whole heap of wheel spin, had to slot in behind. Billy Mole has driven a drive-through and still has a black flag. This is coming undone rapidly for a driver who had raced up into the top 10.
Mole was putting on a great performance. Unfortunately, in the process of serving that black flag, it appears he sped on the way into the pits. So that's far from ideal for him. Chris Coxhead, though, with a front row seat here, but he's going to rapidly go to the back rows of the bleachers. That's a slowdown, and he clearly took too much curb at that right-hander. Got to be really careful with those white curbs beyond the red and white striped curbs. Dial making the move on Vandel to make it up into 10th there. And now Chris Coxhead will have to try and keep Ian Shue and Jack Andrews behind him. Our leaders are in, or one of them at least, Andrew Dutch, coming into the lane.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see that pit entry based on what you were talking about behind. He was just in behind Ken Ladder, and there's a tension between how long it takes to change the tyres and how much fuel you need. Now, just a 4-tyre change can happen in about 10 seconds, but we're seeing people make 12, 13-second stops. They clearly think they need that little bit of extra fuel, so there is an advantage to be had from fuel saving. Cut a second or so out of your pit stop, still be able to get 4 brand new tyres.
This battle is still going on between Jackson Dial and Sebastian Vandel. Vandel making his way past Inatani, and a little bit of a touch there. They also touched wheels at the chicane. We'll have a replay in just a few moments for you here. This was into the final chicane, and the slipstream picked up by Jackson Dial ever so slightly, but right there on the way into the final corner, you get on the brake pedal. Car ahead serving a slowdown. That was Inatani that cut the final chicane. But yeah, that's something that you often see in these braking zones. Once you get on the stop pedal, you have very little control over where the car is going. You need to make sure that your trajectory doesn't send you into another car. Only light contact in the end, though.
So Ken Ladder still leads. Emily Jones has closed in on that since the pit stop for Andrew Dutch. Dutch has come out in a little bit of traffic. He's behind Dylan Walker, who hasn't stopped yet. So, yeah, with this many cars on track, you do end up in a little bit of traffic, and this is what his pit entry looked like. So he's 3 cars behind, and he has to brake earlier than you would quite want to, but not by too much, because you've got to get down to 80 by those cones still.
Indeed. Well, Kenneth
Jones
Latter.
with a slowdown.
Oh no, Emily Jones, as she's had to give up the position to Kane Kugamiya, who now leads the race on the road. But Kenneth Latter responding to the pit stop from Andrew Dutch. 12.7 seconds stop for Andrew Dutch. Kenneth Latter just completing his stop at 12.5 seconds. And I think with Dutchy's less than ideal run into pit lane, this could be tight on the way out of pit lane. It looks like Latter is going to come out ahead, but he's struggling to put the power down as the tyres are still very cold.
Yeah, so Emily Jones picking up a slowdown at a very inopportune time. Maybe got misled into the braking zone by the driver in front going for the pit entry. You know, sometimes you could run in hot to that final corner, braking not enough, braking too late. If you're watching the car in front and not aware that they're going to go for pit entry, that's something to keep an eye on. But it's put Emily Jones behind Kane Kugamiya, who now is in a box seat for a top 3. And Emily Jones, I think, is net 4th at the moment, with Thomas Freeman immediately behind. And yeah, the next highest car running that's made their pit stop, Ryan Mueller, is 5 seconds behind Ken Ladder, so I think not quite in the picture yet.
Yeah, as we get news from race control, another penalty, a drive-through for Jack Andrews. That's contact with the number 45 entry, which if I search through my timing screens, can't quite find it. It's showing the 33 we've just heard of Jaden Green. I believe we caught that incident live. So that's 5 seconds to be added to either the pit stop or his time at the end of the race. Jones
Latter
and
with a
Freeman staying out.
This is for the race lead. Latter could lose out to Andrew Dutch here. Net race leader.
Does.
Yep. I think Dutch leads this race now because we've seen that slowdown for Emily Jones, who was in 3rd. Ken Latter loses that track position. And suddenly, the driver in the best position that I'd be going to the casino to put all of my Canadian dollars on would be Andrew Dutch.
Yeah, now that he's in the lead and looking quite fast indeed, I think Dutch might be able to hold on to that. Meanwhile, Dylan Walker, 5-second penalty for him. avoidable contact with the number 33 on lap 5. That's going to be another 5-second penalty that has been given there. Brad Vaughan now sitting in P8 and with a reasonably quick stop time, but he has got Matt Morris ahead of him, who's fresh out of the pits and now has the fastest lap of the race. Matt Morris, you can always count on being there or thereabouts, and it looks like he'll be having a good run to the end here. Bradley Vaughan has to keep an eye out for Mark Poynton in the Camaro, just a couple of seconds back. Got one of the Frog League juiced cars in between them. Meanwhile, our top two running on track at the moment, the only two cars yet to visit the pit lane.
Yeah, running long, but it gives them a whole heap of clean air, even if their tyres are a little bit older. That flying lap just then, 37.7 from Emily Jones, 37.4 from Andrew Dutch. Ken Latta still on his outlap, Ken Kugamiya on the outlap, 37.2 from Matt Morris. So seeing about a half a second undercut. I think the value of the clean air means you could stay out there right up until the point you encounter some traffic. This is not disastrous staying out for Jones or Freeman at the moment.
No, they are lapping consistently at the moment. Ryan Mueller, meanwhile, has gotten the fastest lap of the race, but very quickly, Sebastian Vandel, who's just ahead of this battle we're looking at, has taken it. First driver into the 136s on race pace. The track is improving. The tyres are at optimal condition at the moment. Jackson Dial will have to try and hold off Inatani, Coxhead, Hinds, Blake Fitz for this fight. Not too far ahead is Sebastian Vandel either, just a few seconds. I believe there might be a lapped car ahead of these guys as well. When I check, it is Dean Logsdale, who has had a pretty rough race thus far, had to spend quite a bit of time in pit lane.
So you're looking at Dial in orange, Tomiyasu Inatane black and green. Chris Coxhead has lost a chunk of spots across this race to some pretty nasty slowdowns. Just ahead of the purple Jinx shifters, Thomas Hinds, Emily Jones and Thomas Freeman, the last two cars that hadn't stopped yet, come into the lane. Expecting Andrew Dutch will go to the lead of the race, but Jones and Freeman will have some good tyres at the tail end here, and both of them will want to be on the podium.
Yeah, that will be their chance to move through to the Split 1 race that's happening very soon indeed. So Andrew Dutch, we can expect to move back through to the race lead from here, but Freeman and Jones have both completed their stops here. That's pit exit right there for Emily Jones on the bottom of your screen, and it looks like they will come out behind Latta and Kugamiya, but with super fresh tyres on, I'm sure that they'll be right on the back of them in a couple of laps.
Yeah, because Andrew Dutch, for example, is just onto the 5th lap of his set of tyres. He'll be past the best. They'll be beginning to overheat just a little bit as you work them. When you race and race hard in this car, it really seems like the tyres go beyond thermally their best operating temperature. A safety car brings them back, anything like that. You can't let off in these racing conditions. So once the oven is preheated, the tyres begin to drop back. A little bit of contact there for 3rd and 2nd. These guys don't need to run each other off the road when they've got a 1.5 seconds to Emily Jones, but are they beginning to feel some of that pressure?
Well, Kugamiya is clearly very quick indeed. He got an off track on his previous lap, but it was a 136.6, and he makes the move on Latta, but the cutback from Fishy 269 puts Latta back into 2nd place, and Kugamiya having trouble getting the power down. That's going to be some big time loss there. You can almost see that Emily Jones is a lot closer now to them now. And Thomas Freeman not too far behind in her wheel tracks. Ryan Mueller, 4 laps into his stint, is just behind those drivers. So they might put some space between them and him, but I think for the moment, with 8 laps still remaining in the session, the race is on for 2nd place.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're Emily Jones, you simply love to see that. She's gained a fair chunk of time on them. Was about a 1.5 seconds back. Now 0.8 back, so exactly what you need. Going to close up between this whole top 4, because Dutch's lead is only 1.2 seconds at the moment. Like you said, tyres just a little bit older than Latta, a little bit older than Kugamiya, 4 laps older than Emily Jones, whose tyres right now are going to be as good as they get, basically the 1st or 2nd flying lap. You've got enough temperature in that they're gripping, but you haven't overheated them just yet. And, 220 degrees ready for you to put your pizza in.
For sure. But it's not temperatures that you want to sustain for too long. The pizza will become a lump of coal. And you could roughly say the same for the tyres. Kenneth Latta now starting to struggle on these tyres as he's defensive on Kugamiya. Once again into the hairpin, and this time Kugamiya cuts back underneath and gets a brilliant run out, but oh, it's too much. He gets on the grass, and he'll have to give up the position to Jones, who's on a real charge right now. This is going to be a fantastic lap for Emily Jones if she can keep this up. Now sits in third place, and that's the last golden ticket position for the run into split one. Now Kugamiya has to worry about Freeman, who's also on the same strategy as Jones with fresh tyres.
Couldn't have been easier for Emily Jones, who we ride on board with now in the third position and with some pace to burn compared to Ken Latta as well. And 7 laps to go, decent tyre offset to Andrew Dutch, who she's only 1.2 seconds behind. I think any of these three here could be heading towards the win, and Kane Kugamiya will be kicking himself a little bit because it was just fractionally too eager with the throttle coming out of the hairpin, and it's cost Kane a top 3.
That it has. And, you know, once you overheat these tyres, it's such a challenge to bring them back down to operating temperature. You have to give up quite a bit of pace. Kenneth Latta is really lighting up those rears, and that's going to give Jones potentially quite an easy move into the chicane here. She's ahead into the braking zone and meets the apex very nicely. Lots of traction out on the exit too. So that's Jones now up into second place. And the question now is, can she catch Andrew Dutch with 6.5 laps left?
The grip advantage is ridiculous on these last 2 laps. Jones was, I think that's 1.4 seconds quicker than Dutch last lap. Dutch just needed to pace this one out, but Emily Jones, those tyres are right in the sweet spot. They won't stay there forever. They'll reach a bit of a plateau similar to where Andrew Dutch's tyres are currently at. So if Jones catches the same amount this lap, will be on Dutch by the end of the lap, putting pressure on. Dutch needs to drive calmly. Emily Jones has the world at her fingertips.
Yeah, 136.7 on the previous lap. This lap, of course, a little bit slower than that, but still half a second quicker than Andrew Dutch. She is practically on the back of him now, you could even say. Next penalty to come in for race control is Robbie Tomei with 5 seconds added for contact with the 981. That was Harry Dodds. Dodds has certainly not had a good time today at all. But we'll keep our eyes peeled on Thomas Freeman here. He's made his way past Kane Kugamiya and is rapidly trying to mount an attack to try and catch those podium positions. About 1.3 seconds behind Kenneth Latta as things stand.
So close for the race lead there, and you also got to factor in Freeman's got tyre advantage to get towards the podium. This is Emily Jones's new favourite overtaking opportunity underneath the bridge.
Lovely stuff from Emily Jones. That was a textbook pass, and Andrew Dutch scrambled to try and keep track position there. He may lose out to Latta now as the 269 has the run into the hairpin. Dutch defensive on the way in, but Latta will do his best to try and cut back on him. Rotate the car, put the power down smoothly. Got to be careful of that curb and the bumps on the way out of that hairpin. That's what almost took Kugamiya out a couple of laps ago. Now the slipstream is on into the final chicane, but will Ken Latta want to make the move here? I don't think so. Oh, he's making up a lot of time on the way in, but I think he's overshot the corner there. He's going to lose out again.
So Freeman's tyres are the same age as Emily Jones. He's on the headlight flasher to close in on Ken Latta and Andrew Dutch. Still a chance of getting on the podium, running a strategy that makes him aggressive late in this race. With 5 laps to go, Ken Latta, I think, has been a little bit susceptible to pressure, even though he has been quick. You've got to have both of those attributes to achieve success in this type of racing.
Yeah, you do. These cars are some of the most unique on the iRacing service, and that's a narrow entry there for Kenneth Latta. He's going to lose a bit of pace through the chicane there. Thomas Freeman will notice that ahead, and we'll see if he ends up making the move towards the end of this lap. I see Dylan Walker falling down the order a bit. He's given up 18th place to Ian Shue and 19th place to Ethan Johnson. Looks like a slowdown for Dylan Walker there. So the slowdowns are certainly not out of the woods yet. Side by side here between Thomas Freeman and Kenneth Latta. Just enough room being given to the outside there. But Latta parking it on the apex, meaning that Freeman cannot get the run out of the hairpin he needs.
There's the rowing lake from the Montreal Olympics. We still don't know where the rowing is going to be in 2032, but we know that this is some serious speed. Fastest part of the racetrack is here. Still a massive braking zone in these cars, but they are past 270 k's an hour. You've got to mind keeping half of your car inside of the track, leaping across those curves at the final chicane.
And into turn one, we'll see second gear for Thomas Freeman. It looks like he's unafraid to use second on the way out of the hairpin here. You got to basically drive like you've got an egg underneath your throttle pedal and you don't want to break it. It's very smooth power application that is required around this circuit, around any circuit in these cars, but Montreal not being used for most of the year and in generally quite a cold part of the world means that the tarmac can get quite slippery.
Oh, it's the freeze-thaw cycle, Reese. It's bad for your chicken and it's bad for the pavement.
It certainly is. There's been multiple occasions over the years in the real world where the track surface has broken up at Montreal, particularly in the hairpin. That's a lot of curb there for Freeman. Hopefully that's not a slowdown. It looks like it isn't. He's going to keep up this attack on Kenneth Latta as Latta's let Andrew Dutch get away from him here. And it's defensive again for Latta. And Freeman's trying to find his way through, but there's no door opening to the inside. Kane Kugamiya sees this happening ahead of him and is licking his lips. He could be having a top four or a podium on his hands if he keeps that up.
Yeah, absolutely. This battle for the final golden ticket is going to be so hot. Emily Jones with 1 second lead coming to 3 laps to go. Andrew Dutch has just got inside of it, and oh!
Rubbing past Kenneth Latta as Thomas Freeman in the braking zone. A lot of curb on the exit for Latta, and is that a slowdown for Freeman? Not sure. Definitely a slowdown for Latta, and that's going to be Kane Kugamiya up into 4th. Let's see if he tries to make his way past Freeman into turn 1. Not quite. Freeman placing his car well, but he's gone deep, and he's on the grass, and Kugamiya now trying around the outside of turn 2. No grip at all out there. The battle for 3rd is looking as intense as you'll ever see here. Now it's just between Freeman and Kugamiya as Emily Jones and Andrew Dutch have skipped away.
Yeah, once you're that full car width wide, you're too wide. Kugamiya getting a slowdown penalty just there. So he's cut the circuit at that corner, I think at the second apex.
Yeah,
still carrying it.
Going all the way on the grass. Yeah, he's still clearing it, and Kenneth Latta will see half a chance to get back ahead, but it looks like he's not making any huge gains. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, Sebastian Vandel has just made his way past Mark Poynton. I believe a slowdown for Poynton or a mistake, and Vandel now becomes the hardest charger in the field. He's 25 places up to round out the top 10. That's really impressive from Sebastian. Dylan Walker, meanwhile, has finally made his way back to his qualifying position of 19th and has Ian Shue ahead of him. Let's see if, oh dear, oh, Billy Rowley and Jack Andrews coming together there, and Harry Lawrence just escaping. But Billy Rowley with some pretty heavy damage on his car at the moment. Car's coming up at speed, stays out of the way. That is disastrous for the 860.
Cars coming together, exiting turn 4. Some drivers have been getting slowdowns, cutting that apex at 4. Many drivers have been sort of running a bit wide. One of the places you really do scrape up against the wall. The combination of those two can see cars come together there. Looking at 2 to go for your race leader, Emily Jones, who I think has just passed that really, really sweet spot of the tyres. No longer pulling away from Andrew Dutch, but the two of them are pulling away from the podium battle of Freeman, Kugamiya, and Kenneth Latta.
Yep, still together, these three, and there's every chance that they'll come together again. Chris Coxhead for 12th place, making his way past Tomoyasu Inatani, and Inatani trying his best to keep the pace up through turn 2. Will come under pressure from Thomas Hinds and Blake Fitz. Fitz is now the biggest gainer in the field, 26 spots up. He and Sebastian Vandel have had an absolutely rollicking run through the field, as has Justin Wallace down in 24th place, up 20 places. A lot of benefit being taken from all of the typical round 1 chaos.
Now comes the fuel question. Who gambled on there being a bit of safety car dropping back for the slowdown there for Blake Fitz? Turn 4 is surprisingly one of the places that's catching them out. Last year it was all about the final chicane. Let's see what that's happening there. We've gone safety car free, 23 green flag laps it looks like it's going to be. Emily Jones 11.9 seconds of fuel, Andrew Dutch 12.8, Thomas Freeman 11.5. So Jones and Freeman just a little bit shorter, but they pitted later, so they would have had more information about their consumption.
Yeah, and this top 3 here will be getting some valuable data for the Split 1 race to come, which will be twice the length of this one. Mark Poynton getting a 10-second penalty for not holding the brakes as the final lap begins, just in time for this battle to really reach its head here. 13th place, Thomas Hinz trying to chase down Tomoyasu Inatani, but Blake Fitz and Chris Coxhead not too far behind, but Coxhead getting a slowdown out of the final chicane. Jaden Green and Sam Cullen will take advantage of that.
Chris Coxhead will be cursing this place because he started this race 3rd on the grid. He was running up front in the top 5. He got a horrible standing start, dropped some positions. He's got so many slowdown penalties that he has dropped from 3rd on the grid to racing 17th right now without any massive dramas, just slowdowns, slowdowns, slowdowns.
Yeah, all the way through the field. Jack Andrews, meanwhile, black flag for incident points. He's going to be driving through the pits on the final lap of the race. Just the run to the finish now for Emily Jones and Andrew Dutch. And Dutch has been able to keep up with Jones quite nicely. I think a bit too far back to take full advantage of the slipstream though. So Jones will be left with a clear track ahead of her. And Trans-Tasman Racing will technically take the first win of the V8SCOPS season, albeit in Split 2. The 098 coming to the line. A stellar drive from Emily Jones, nailing the pit strategy with the fresh tyres at the end. And will take a fantastic victory from there with Andrew Dutch in 2nd and Thomas Freeman rounding out your top 3. They will all make their way through to Split 1 later on tonight. Liam Milner, meanwhile, in 22nd place. He's now 23rd as Justin Wallace gets the run on him out of the hairpin. And this is the last chance here to try and take that spot back. Milner up 16 spots, wants it to be 17. Justin Wallace up 22 places, wants to try and stay there. And round the outside of the final chicane, it's going to be a drag race to the line with the cut underneath there from Liam Milner. Is it going to be enough? Just 100th of a second in it between them. It looks like Wallace finished ahead.
One of the things you don't want to do is cross the checkered flag carrying a slowdown penalty. Harry Wallace, the 37, might be just about to do that. No, I think he stopped to avoid what I was just talking about. Going to get another photo finish here.
Indeed we are. Ryan Nielsen and Harry Dodds. And again, maybe like a quarter of a car length, if that, between them.
Oh, another one.
Oh dear. Another one. Troy Stone Street and Robbie Tomei cross the line, and Stacey Boyd looking very rough there. No front end on that Camaro. It's been a chaotic start to the Split 2 season here at Montreal, but we have our results. And we're ready to go through them just about. Emily Jones, Andrew Dutch, and Thomas Freeman are your top 3, and we'll have the chance to race in Split 1 later on. Kane Kugumia certainly made some big runs at the podium, but ultimately losing out, still gaining 3 spots on where he started with Kenneth Latta, our pole sitter, rounding out the top 5 there, with Ryan Mueller and Matt Morris fighting hard in 6th and 7th. Brad Vaughan and Sebastian Vandel only separated by a couple of tenths at the end. Jackson Dial rounds out your top 10.
Over Leaf, Mark Poynton finished in 11th place. Tomoyasu Inatane finishing in 12th. Thomas Hinz in 13th. Blake Fitz is the biggest mover of the race. 27 positions gained from way deep in the field to 14th place. That is a clean and respectable race for the 686, no doubt. Jaden Green in 15th, Sam Cullen in 16th, Chris Coxhead dropping back to 17th from the second row of the grid. Dylan Walker 18th, Ethan Johnson there in 19th, and Aaron Gilbert in 20th.
In 21st place, it was Lachlan Pryke, only 1,000th of a second in it between Justin Wallace and Liam Milner at the line, with Ian Shue another 0.8 of a second back or so. Ryan Shelton, on his comeback to V8SCOPS competition, finishes 25th. That's some all right gains there after starting from 30th. William Morgan and Scott McKenzie, 26th and 27th. Harry Lawrence, Trent Bennett and Roger Forbert did not have ideal races. They were right in the center of a lot of that drama.
Nielsen in 31st, Dodds in 32nd, Billy Rowley in 33rd, Troy Stonestreet 34th, Robert Tomei 35th, Kevin Norman in 36th, Stacey Boyd 37th, Jack Andrews 38th. They were actually very close in this pack here, from about 34th to 39th at the end, with Michael Stewart there in 39th. Billy Mole 40th place, 40 cars on the lead lap, and the other four, one lap down, 2 laps down, and then into not really classified finisher, and definitely not classified if you're disqualified.
Yes, Sean van der Meulen with that dubious honour there, with Dean Logsdale having to spend a lot of time in pit lane. Well, that's going to conclude the first portion of this broadcast, but don't go away. We've got Split 1 action coming up very shortly here on SimSpeed TV. You're watching round 1 of V8 SCOPS for 2026.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the Daytona 24, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR schedule, such as the Daytona 500. We have events from disciplines all across the racing world, from the Indianapolis 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events utilize iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against every driver taking part. And as every race progresses, watch and feel the track change with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, the first round of 2026 for the new V8SCOPS season. Split 2 action was aplenty and boundless. Really interesting to see who out of our top 3 from Split 2 will advance the most here in Split 1 as we're ready to go for the main game. A 46-lap race ahead of us with a qualifying session just beforehand. The circuit Gilles Villeneuve playing host to the first round of the 2026 season. Here, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick once again, it's me, Reese Gardner, with David Haynes alongside, and Jay Kennedy. Behind the scenes, pressing these buttons, bringing you these pictures. David, coming into Split 1, we've learnt a bit from Split 2. The later you pit, sometimes the better if you're at the front of the field.
Yeah, well, it's classic street circuit strategy, isn't it? When passing is easy, pitting a little on the early side gives you a tyre undercut. But when passing is difficult, what you don't want to be is mired in any traffic. And I think that was actually a slight detraction to those that stopped early and tried to get on some new tyres. The other thing we learned, of course, was track limits, track limits, track limits. It's at the final corner, turn 14, it's at turn 4, it's at turn 9, it's at turn 1 even, I think, as well. You've got to be sort of really careful with where you place your car, because the way these cars are built, they love to eat up some curbs, like at the Gold Coast, like at turn 2 of Adelaide. But they can bite off more than race control will let them chew, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now we have a look at the previous winners of the Montreal round of V8SCOPS. It's been on the calendar every year since 2015, and of course there's some real legends in the midst of all of this. Madison Down, Jared Filsell, the initial winners of the Montreal event. In 2018, we had an Enduro, 2 300-kilometer races, and Josh Rogers and Jake Maloney took part in that one, winning both of those 300k races where drivers had to share a car. Phil Scott, Hampstead taking the wins in 2019, 2020, and 2021, David. But we started to see a little bit of variance come out in recent years, haven't we?
Yeah, this is one of those tracks that we've been coming to for a long time in V8 SCOPS. Here, Road Atlanta, there's a few of them where the history does go back 10 events or maybe even more, and it does lend a little bit of history to some of these tracks. We're also very thrilled to have new tracks like the Bend, like the Adelaide Street Circuit, etc. But here, there is V8 SCOPS history around this place. A couple of race wins, of course, to Jared Filsell, a couple to James Scott, but will we get a repeat winner or a new first-time winner?
Yeah, one of the first-time winners in this list is Rehan Leonage, who took his first V8 SCOPS top split win right here in 2023. Shout out to Rehan, who was unfortunately the victim of a hit and run while riding his bike home from school just a few days ago. He is okay, but albeit very shaken up. So Rehan, we certainly send our best to you and to your family. His father Laz, often spotting and managing, engineering his races for him in V8 SCOPS, racing karts as well in the real world. We hope that you're back to full health soon, Rehan, and when you're back, certainly you'll be right up there on pace with everyone else. Split 1 race number 240 in V8 SCOPS history here. Going to be taking place in just a few or in just about half an hour's time or so. Qualifying is ahead of us. The drivers just rounding out the end of practice. It's going to be 15 minutes per group. The top 3 from Split 2 will join positions 16 to 36 in pre-qualifying for the first 15 minutes, then a 5-minute break, and then the final 15 minutes for the drivers who are in the top 15 in pre-qualifying. 46 laps ahead of us. The race should take round about 2 hours or so, but we have a time limit of 2.5 hours just in case there's safety car interventions. 2 compulsory pit stops with the fuel tank capped at 80%. Once again, the drivers will need to keep an eye out for the incident limit. 20 incidents is the limit before you get a drive-through. Then you get another drive-through every 10 incidents thereafter. Very easy to pick up incidents at Montreal, but we'll largely be focusing on that pit stop strategy, David. It could be, a wide variance of strategies that we see. The undercut will be very strong in the first stint, but I think for the final stop, we might see drivers attempting an overcut to try and get fresh tires at the end.
A safety car was entirely possible in our Split 2 race earlier, but didn't eventuate. It is again entirely possible here in Split 1. A few factors could lend towards it being even more likely. That is, I feel the field should be closer. We've got twice as many pit stops, twice as many laps, and perhaps more at stake as well. That could lead to some possibilities. Just as we spoke about track limits in the racing for Split 2, we're going to need to consider them in the qualifying for Split 1 as well as the race. What you don't want is to be on a really good lap, fly into the final chicane, cut a little bit too much, and be told, lap time deleted.
Yeah, certainly. While we have a moment, shout out to our good friend Stephen Sandman Clark, longtime commentator of Supercars Racing on the iRacing service, was here for the first ever V8 SCOPS broadcast back in 2014. He's turning 50 today, and congratulations on reaching that half century, Sandman. Really hope to catch up with you again soon. We hope that you're enjoying your day. Always nice when your birthday falls on a weekend. We're going to go through here in the last few minutes of practice to see team changes and the like. James Scott is racing once again for the Chiefs Esports Club, now wearing the 088 on his car once again. Did carry the number 1 last season. New teammate, and it's Bo Albert, And, well, I guess it's a new old teammate in a sense, isn't it, David? Because James Scott and Bo Albert were together at Altus Esports a few years ago. Of course, that team is no more. They are also joined by Robbie Gibbs, who was a teammate at Evolution Racing Team to Bo Albert and James Scott. So Chiefs Esports Club has certainly come out ready to fight. Also have Dylan Rudd still on board. Dylan Rudd, I believe, was also teammate to James Scott when they were racing with Lobs Esports with Jared Filsell and Brody Kostecki a couple of seasons ago. A couple other team changes we'll have to figure out on the way through here as well. Eclipse has added a few new drivers to their roster. Zach Rattray White is still with them, but got a few new teammates to contend with here.
You can only read so much into the positions in this practice session right now. Everyone will have done so much practice beforehand, so much pre-qualifying. And so really it's only a competitive session where everyone needs to show their hand once we get into the tail end of qualifying. Interesting to see a handful of teams putting in a real team effort here for 2026 V8SCOPS. Bunch of cars in the field from Chiefs. Eclipse have tidied everything up a little bit here as well. Flash new livery on their cars, and have put a handful of drivers forward that we know can be very, very competitive.
Yes, Zach Rattray White's been joined by Hayden Veld and Matthew Bowler at Eclipse Sim Sports, both former Evolution Racing team drivers, and also with history at Synergy Sim Racing as well. So some nice pedigree for Bowler and Veld. I already had the pleasure of seeing them race once in Eclipse Sim Sports liveries when I guested in commentary for the MC Motorsports V8 series. Unfortunately, they were running 1-2 at Hockenheim and they took each other out when battling for the lead. Hopefully that doesn't happen to them today. Russell Pepperell, meanwhile, long-time competitor in the championship, he has now joined Trans-Tasman Racing. Be interesting to see what the Kiwi can do in those red, white and black colours.
He's Trans-Tasman Racing. Very surprised that Bo Albert hasn't joined Kia Tasman Racing.
Oh, dearie me. Well, we'll see what
Explanation
Pepperell can do.
Bo, if you need to buy a Kia in Ballarat, you can ask Bo Albert if he's got time in his schedule to see you.
Yes, indeed. Bo Albert, now a car salesman. It's been interesting seeing the content that he's been putting out very recently. Jay saying in the background explains it because he's so dodgy. Of course, we love a good bit of banter here at SimSpeed. But we'll keep our eyes peeled on the final few minutes of this practice session to see who gets the best time. At the moment, Bo Albert is on top, and the Chiefs Esports Club Mustang is looking quite competitive at the moment. Exiting pit lane, meanwhile, on his way out is Sam Blacklock, driving for Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport, and he's bounced between a few teams over the years. Evolution Racing Team, Altus Esports, and now Orbit Drop Bear. He's always a factor as Sam gets some great lap times down in qualifying and certainly puts all of his effort into his racing. Be interesting to see where he puts himself in the session to come.
Quality racing shirt, we love that. I got my racing shirt on, so it's dress for the job you want, not the job you have day today for me.
Yeah, I'm currently wearing a tank top, so I guess that says a bit about the
World
about
Surf
my
League
career
Gardner?
prospects. No, Sid's Burger joint.
I was thinking dress for the job you want could be Southpaw Surfer.
Or Southpaw Burger. I wouldn't mind running a burger joint, but we'll leave the. We will leave that for whether or not this sim racing commentary thing works out for me. Sam Blacklock is going to practice pit entry here. Nice demonstration of how late you need to brake. Yep. well past the braking point for the final corner, and it looks like he made it in cleanly, but that is once again going to be a factor in the race to come. Drivers are going to have to pit twice, so that's 2 times at least they'll need to try and negotiate that potentially in a pack of cars.
Bo Albert and Zach Rattray-White both tested it and both got black flags. Zach Rattray-White gets another black flag on the pit exit. I don't know. Not only a couple of seconds left in this session, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, every little thing stacks up. Practicing that pit entry is going to be key, given how strategically important it will be around the tiny little advantages that make or break your race around this pit stop strategy.
Yep. Supercar racing is always a matter of thousandths of a second, sometimes less. So you have to be on your A game the whole way around, especially to get your season off to the best start possible. Practice is over, and now it's time for qualifying. Remember, Group 1 is going to be positions 16 to 36 in pre-qualifying, plus the top 3 from Split 2. And looking through it, I can see that I'm looking for Emily Jones in the standings. I'm not seeing her unless I need to get a new glasses prescription, but we'll wait and see who makes their way out first in qualifying. It looks like Sam Blacklock is right on the money, and he is going to lead the charge out of pit lane. So these are the practice results then. Kobe Jones, no relation to Emily, rounding out the top 5 there. As we scroll down through the order, Ryan Jones is another Jones of no relation to Emily. Down in 26th there. I'm not seeing much of a trace of the rest of our Split 2 top 3 though. Thomas Freeman, though, has made an appearance there. Andrew Dutch not making an appearance in this server for the moment. Of course, participation in Split 1 is optional, but encouraged for the top 3 from Split 2. So, now we set up for our first qualifying laps of the season, and Blacklock is all alone up the front of the field. Blake Warboys trailing behind him, with Jacob O'Reilly, Adam Briggs and William Sapstead next in the queue. This is going to be a good opportunity to see how these drivers tackle the curbs and the tight turns of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
Let's both put our chips in here, Reese. Where in the outright combined grid will the fastest driver from Qual 1 end up? I'm saying 9th.
Yeah, I reckon a top 10 is certainly possible for the fastest drivers from this first group as Blacklock attacks turns 1 and 2. Maybe a slightly narrower turn into turn 1 than expected, but you need to keep it narrow on the exit of 2. It's often the fastest way out, getting to full power as soon as possible. Riding the curbs at the first chicane, you can take quite a bit of the grass through the left-hander, but not too much. You'll get a slowdown. Slight lift through this right-hand sweeper. Back on the power to rotate, and then back on the brakes again to bring it down for an incredibly tight left-hander through this second chicane. Balancing the power on the exit. Slight bit of oversteer correction there from Blacklock as he makes his way down effectively the back stretch towards the chicane that was the scene of a lot of drama in the Split 2 race. A lot of curb there for Blacklock. I mean, from his car behavior, it almost looks like he's not driving that fast, but if you're driving within the limits of these cars, it's usually a sign that you're on a good lap.
Blacklock, yeah, it's given up on that one. Yeah, purple sectors at the moment belong to Blake Warboys and Hayden Veld. No one's completed a lap yet. Hayden Veld loses 4/10 in the middle sector compared to what Warboys had done, so I reckon Warboys is well placed. Veld's got a bit too much traffic here, but might still just see out the lap. Here's Warboys, just the final chicane to attack. He's well placed. Bit of curb, but that's the quick way in qualifying. You've got to be full commitment, and this lap, where I'd still be aiming to bank one, like Warboys is going to lay down a 1:36.5.
Oh, that's a very solid pace there from Warboys. Adam Briggs just under a tenth behind him. William Brown, Jacob O'Reilly, and Seth Brown round out the top 5 for the moment as Schaffnerf and Veld put themselves into 3rd and 6th. And then Emily Jones to the top for the moment, 136.4 for our Split 2 winner.
There we go. Really, really good final sector. Emily Jones was purple in the 3rd sector, but not in the 1st or the 2nd. So got a good exit out of the hairpin and obviously done a good job through that final chicane. She's practiced that plenty already. She's got the rhythm of it and knows how to jump those curbs, but still keep it within bounds. We've got 18 drivers who have set qualifying times, and everyone after one flying lap has backed off. There's no more purple sectors in Sector 1. There's hardly any PB sectors either. Most drivers are going out lap, push lap, and backing off.
Yeah, and looking at the track temperature, it is a little bit warmer than it was in Split 2. We're into the 20s now, but that's still quite a cool track. In most cars, that would allow you a couple of hot laps to get some good pace out of, but in these cars the tires are really only good for that single hot lap, and Blake Warboys bringing it into the pits then. A good first salvo for him, but that's a nice banker, 36.5. It could be a couple more tenths in it. Of course, the no escape rule is active for qualifying and the race. Drivers need to bring their car back to pit lane under their own power. You cannot just pull over to the side of the circuit and press escape. Trying to bring it a bit more in line with how real-world races are conducted. And the no escape rule will also be active in the race. Drivers need to request a tow from race control in order to escape back to pit lane. And oftentimes, a safety car will be called before they allow that.
Interesting to see Will Buchanan on a different run plan here. He's just come through for 2nd position. Moves Darren Lobb down to 3rd. There are 3 drivers in the 0.05 behind Emily Jones. There are 4 drivers, therefore, within 1 second of pole position, with 1/10 of pole position, and make that 5 as another time comes in.
Yes, so William Sapstead, the first driver outside a 10th off pole, but only by 0.02 of a second. It's super close at the top. Darren Lobb, meanwhile, bringing his way out of the pits again to try and set another time into the pits for Sapstead, running slightly different livery from previous, now majority white on that Camaro. Kurt Stenberg, meanwhile, once again for Trans-Tasman Racing in the number 47 machine. He currently sits 17th, and that's the end of his first run. So we'll see what more he can do with about 12 minutes remaining, or actually 7 minutes remaining on the timer for these drivers in the first group. Seth Brown beginning another hot lap, but he's struggling with the rear end on the way into turn 1.
Yeah, a few drivers now beginning a second flying run of this qualifying session. William Brown, Jacob O'Reilly, Hayden Veld, all of that group of drivers. Seth Brown has just begun one. He was beginning the lap sideways coming out of the chicane. Clearly just struggling with it a little bit. You'll want that headlight flasher going if the cars in front of you aren't also on flying laps, and I think they're on in laps in front of him, so they need to be careful not to impede. That is something that you can protest and that race control will keep an eye on. Seth Brown has a purple 1st sector. We are moving up the times.
Yep, Eclipse 510 looking good. And flashing the headlights to say, get out of my way. I'm on a hot lap. My sectors are looking good. Through the second chicane, really struggling to keep the rear end in check across those curbs. The Sector 2 line coming up in just a few moments, 29.83. How's that looking?
It's about to come up on my screen. The one to beat from Emily Jones is a 29.9, so it's a 10th quicker than that. It was half a 10th quicker in the first sector. So by the ability of being able to add numbers together in my head, that's a 10th and a half up already.
Nicely done. You'll get a star sticker for that. Seth Brown then into the final chicane. One of the most important parts of the lap here. Got to be so careful not to run too far over the curbs. He's working the wheel hard. Lots of power on the way out of the final corner. Is this going to be enough for Seth Brown to get to the top? A 136.593. He lost out in the final sector there, sits 7th, only 1,000th off Sapstead.
Lost 4/10 through the final corner. I think it understeered on the way in, put him a bit wide, taking too much of the second curb.
We've just seen Adam Briggs and Jacob O'Reilly go to the top. 136.27 is now the quickest time for everyone to beat. Emily Jones makes an improvement and sets the exact same time down to the 1,000th. It's super close for a provisional P1.
Absolutely it is, and we've seen even when you've got pace through a couple of corners, you've got to string it all together, and it's almost a random number generator hitting some of these curves sometimes. There's Wayne Burke looking like, microwaved Emily Jones livery with the green, but also with some radioactive, and he will cross the line and sit in beginning a new flying lap. Darren Lobb is on a massively hot one. Personal best first sector, purple middle sector, looked okay through the end of the lap there. So this is about a 10th up on where Adam Briggs was at. If he's got that final sector right, he'll jump a spot or two.
How about 3?
Just a couple.
Yeah, up to 4th place for Darren Lobb.
Was not a PB final sector though, lost a 10th to his PB right at the end there. So there are quick drivers that aren't pulling every sector together. Adam Briggs' time that sent him to the top had no purples in it. 3 sectors, and none of them were the fastest we'd ever seen, but he put 3 good ones together, and that put him up top.
That it did. This is what lost Seth Brown those 4/10ths through the final chicane. Big oversteer. And staying out of the wall, but the rear end of the Eclipse Camaro certainly looking a bit less stable than he'd ideally like. So now the second salvo is over, and we have about 4 minutes remaining in this initial session. Of course, the first half of the field effectively taking part in this first session. It would certainly be difficult to manage all 38 cars, or 37 cars, sorry, around a track in a single session. V8SCOPS has run split qualifying for quite a few years now. But now Wayne Burke is going to be the next to take point at the front, a 136.268. Just 0.02 of a second faster than Briggs and Jones. Once again, top times, tight as you would like. Meanwhile, an incident between Kurt Stenberg and the number 99 under review of Darren Lobb. So a little bit of a coming together potentially between those two that Race Control are looking at.
Crazy how that could happen when you've got a pair of such cool heads.
Yeah, indeed. But Race Control will make a decision on that very shortly, I am sure. Sam Blacklock abandoning the final couple of corners there to bring it back into pit lane. Has to gain just a few hundredths of a second to take provisional pole. James Chastaner for Banter Alliance Racing making his way into the pits as well. Seth Brown is going to commit to the end of this lap, down to P12 with the times that have come in recently. Looks like it might be the start of another hot lap for him, as Stenberg, currently P10, bringing it in himself. No PB sectors out there, so you're just looking at drivers that are starting laps now. When they get to the end of the first sector, where will they be at? William Brown's around on a lap that's no improvement for him. And yeah, Seth Brown has just begun a new one. We've seen that his first and second sectors were amazing, and then he lost a chunk of time in the final sector. If he just gets his optimal together, you'll see Seth Brown jump up, as we're going to try to grab some replays of maybe a little bit of traffic altercations. We've got the split group with only half the field qualifying at any time, and still they can tangle over each other with the way that they've got to do an out lap and an in lap per one flying lap. Right, so we're on board with Kurt Stenberg for this replay. He's still on, he's on a hot lap, and Darren Lobb is behind him at the moment. Is this going to be a coming together on the way into pit lane for Darren Lobb? It is. Oh dear. And that is the issue that you face when you come into the pits at Montreal. Lob obviously thought he had the space to maximize pit entry there. Maybe was anticipating that Stenny would come into the pits ahead, but that's what's going to happen when the scrape happens, and that is
Veld's tracking for pole.
Yep, it's earned Darren Lob a pit lane start. Who's tracking for pole?
Hayden Veld has a purple first sector, PB middle sector, final sector. The car rotates well, lands well off the curb, so that'll be good traction. Decent run from the final corner. The timing line is all the way up here. And Seth Brown will complete a lap. And doesn't improve him. Hayden Veld is coming through the final chicane now.
Right, so Veld currently sits in P17. He's going to get up to 9th place with that particular lap. 1:36.508 again. Losing time in the final sector. Seems this final chicane is proving thorn in many drivers' sides today.
Yeah, so the first sector was purple, the middle sector was personal best, but then the final sector he lost 3/10 to his own PB, let alone the provisional pole where he lost 4/10 compared to Briggs or Burke's final sectors. Blake Warboys to the top.
Nice job from Blake Warboys. 1:36.223. Now the time for everyone to beat as Wayne Burke will see the chance to respond here. Needs to gain about half a tenth, but 1:41.3, that looks like an outlap for him, and well timed, because we are about to see the checkered flag for the first section. We had the 2-minute warning 2 minutes ago, and checkered flag is now out. So anyone who's currently on a hot lap will be able to finish it. Everyone else has to come into pit lane and clear the track for the 5-minute break. So let's see who commits to the final corner. It doesn't look like the 5:10 of Brown is going to. Sam Blacklock will be making his way through very shortly, as will William Sapstead, who's coming up to the line now. And it looks like that's not going to be an improvement for Sapstead, but for Blacklock, 1:36.231, just missing out on getting provisional pole there.
Needed every thousandth of a second, but it was a good lap, and he strung together a decent final sector as well. Which drivers coming in? So Wayne Burke is on a flying lap. Emily Jones has just had to abandon a flying lap. And Brett Loxton on a flying lap too. Rain Campbell is completing the second run on this set of tyres. I don't think it's going to move the needle much for him.
He did improve, but only to 19th, 2 spots gained. Paul Young gains 1 spot on his final lap, shuffling James Chastaneuf back to 10th place. Brett Loxton to the line. And it looks like, yeah, okay, here is Burke. Run to the line, sticking to the right, geometric quicker line, 1:36.28. It's not enough.
What did he find? 200ths of a second, and it didn't move him out of 3rd place, but it might just protect that 3rd. Not many other cars out there on a good set of tyres. There's a few that are pushing, but the tyres are on their 2nd lap, and that's past their best. So I think that's basically about to lock that in for everyone.
Yeah, looks like it. Those are the results from the first session of qualifying. 0.08 of a second in it between Blake Warboys and Sam Blacklock. Adam Briggs and Emily Jones once again with the same time down to the 1,000th. Some incredible consistency from our drivers at the top of the field. Good performance from O'Reilly and Buchanan. Darren Lobb did set the 8th fastest time, but he will be starting this race from pit lane thanks to the altercation with Kurt Stenberg in the final chicane. Paul Young and James Chastaneuf rounding out your top 10 there again, only 0.05 in it. And as you go further down, we see once again mere hundredths of a second separating these drivers.
Yeah, super close margins, and there are a lot of drivers that if they just got their personal best sectors together, they would have been way further up. But that's the challenge of this racetrack, proving that at the limit is not easy, not consistently able to do 10/10ths through every sequence of corners every single lap. You've got to be able to access consistency rather than just raw pace, and the same will apply to our next group of qualifiers, and the same will apply to the racing as well with those track limits.
Certainly will. Well, Russell Pepperell and Brett Loxton will round out the field thus far, and only 0.5 of a second off the fastest time. Considering that the field spread in V8SCOPS is usually about a second, I don't think Pepperell and Loxton will be at the very back of the grid, but they'll be certainly having to work their way forward in the race to come. Right then, let's see, with 1 minute and 10 seconds to go left in this brief break period, the times that we are yet to see from our top competitors. Just reviewing the practice times for a moment. Once again, Albert, Rattray White, and Sean Campbell, the top three. Campbell also coming in from the United States, and he made a few guest appearances last season and was right on the pace. He's an absolute weapon in a GTP, and really any kind of car. You can expect Sean Campbell to be right on top.
30 seconds till the green flag for the second segment of qualifying for the first race, the split one of V8SCOPS in 2026. Cars are beginning to line up at the exit of pit lane. They're keen to get out there, maximize every second of this 15 minutes that they're allotted, because we've seen that the tyres are only good for one run. So you've got to do an out lap, attempt a flying lap, and then make your in lap. And all of that combined, it takes 3 laps to do one flying lap. You won't get an unlimited number of attempts here. You've got to be able to execute, and you need all of the time to be able to try and execute as well. So Matthew Bowler was second out on track. Trying to see who won this race.
Last year it was Brady Myers who...
I mean the race off of pit lane and into this session.
Right. So it's Rattray White who's front of the queue, David. Continue.
Yeah, because they left their pit boxes, they lined up at pit exit, because they want to be out here. They want to get on their first flying lap and then get on with it. Though we saw being in too much traffic for your banker lap wasn't useful, as where everyone is between turns 6 and 8.
O'Sullivan trailing quite a bit in that number 74.
Someone's got to be the free thinker and do something different. I don't necessarily want to be racing around on my outlap here, though. If I'm in second or third or fourth, there might be some drivers that pull aside here on the casino straight and just hold their hand a little closer to their chest.
Yeah, who wants to be behind who? Looks like final tyre warm-ups happening for the Eclipse drivers here, as Zach Rattray White is followed closely by Matthew Bowler. Next in line, Bo Albert, and then Summit Simsports' Kobe Jones, fourth in line as the lap begins here for Rattray White. Now, we saw when riding on board with Seth Brown that he was having some trouble with the rear end on the way into the corners. Rattray White, by contrast, supremely controlled on the way into the first turns. Almost Jenson Button-like and Alan Prost-like in his smoothness.
The current provisional pole first sector was a 27.5. Zach Rattray White is one of the first drivers to trigger the timing line. The 27.4, already a tenth of a second underneath the provisional pole time on his first flying lap here with clean track in front of him. A few of the others behind might need to worry, but his teammate could probably bank on Zach Rattray White being consistent here. The purple sector then goes to Robbie Gibbs. So these times are going to tumble even on the first lap. And half of these drivers complete the runs they've started.
Yes, indeed. Well, keep an eye on the times for Sector 2 here for Rattray White at 29.6. That's not quite the quickest that we've seen, but should still be a good banker here. Keeping an eye on the track temperature, it did go down a little bit at the start of qualifying, but it's come back up again to 24 Celsius. Whether or not that results in quicker times or not remains to be seen, because when you've got track temps in the mid-20s, it can be beneficial to getting the tyre temperature up quicker, but the higher the track temperature is, generally, the slower the lap times will get. You only really start seeing that happen when the track temperatures get into the 30s and the 40s. So, First times down for this second group of qualifying, and Rattray White immediately goes to the top, a 1:35.8. Kobe Jones slotting into second, and then Robbie Gibbs into second as well. Matthew Bowler and Bo Albert will round out your top 5. Our top 2 from the first session, Warboys and Blacklock, remaining in 6th and 7th for the moment, as Campbell is about to bring it to the line.
How are the headlights on this thing? I like that. That is a quality livery. Definitely standing out from the rest of the pack as well. What's the lap time going to do? At a 36.1, it's going to stand 3 tenths behind pole. But it's a good first effort, honestly. All of these first efforts have come in and blown up the scoreboard. Jared Filsell now on provisional pole. And Blake Warboys, who I forecasted 9th on the grid for, is already teetering in 8th.
Yeah, indeed. It looks like we may be a bit touch and go for the ability of our first drivers to stay in the top 10. That's a lot of airtime for Matthew Bowler through the final chicane, and resulting in quite the slide over the curb as well. Just keeping it out of the wall there, and the famed Wall of Champions. But P5 in the session for the moment for Bowler, one of many new additions to Eclipse Sim Sport, which include Hayden Veld and Ryan O'Sullivan. Jared Filsell, meanwhile, to the top, and that's an in-lap for him. Number 94 for the Falcon Esports team has those sector times to his name: 27.5 S1, S2 29.6, and then S3 a 38.6. Man who has stood on the top of the podium many times in the past here at Montreal, certainly going on his way to that.
So everyone following a rather predictable run plan here from our highest pre-qualified drivers. This is our top-ranked top seeds for the V8SCOPS Open. Tennis, and Robbie Gibbs going back out. He is 3rd at the moment. Got a new set of tyres on for him. Jared Filsell a tiny bit further back on track. We just saw him coming in to get a new set. Sean Campbell had some PB sectors on a lap that I think he then aborted.
Probably not happy with a couple of corners there, hoping to.
Or he just pushed real hard on the in-lap. I don't know. Might have gotten the first lap not right and then pushed hard on the in-lap to get back around. And...
yeah, Campbell does, I think, tend to just ease into a qualifying run in these cars a lot of the time. Robbie Gibbs, he may have Logitech G all over his car, but the livery he should be running is a Chiefs Esports Club livery. Of course, this being the first round, we've had a few drivers who aren't quite showing up correctly with the right paint on their cars, but I'm sure we'll be sorting that out for the future rounds to come. Doubleheader in Canada to start off the season, with Mosport playing host to round 2, a track that has always provided fantastic racing whenever it's been on the V8SCOPS calendar. Gibbs setting up then for the run to the line to start his next hot lap. Needs to gain a bit over 1/10 of a second to shuffle Jared Filsell off the top spot.
All about the sectors, and Zach Rattray White has one of the best first sectors. Robbie Gibbs had a 27.414 last time. We didn't put together the lap for provisional pole, but he had the purple first sector, so we'll hope to just match that, give or take 27 seconds. Turn 5 flat out in a lot of cars, not necessarily for these, and there comes the timing sector where he's a 10th down, but if the tyres are well prepped and he brings the rest of the lap together, that still matches what Filsell did on the lap that gave him the provisional pole. Gibbs can find a little bit of time in sector 2 and 3 and still move the timing pylon around.
Nice turn in for the chicane there. That might be a tiny bit too much grass, though. This is how close he got to the wall on his outlap. Oh, he just grazes off it. That's the margin for error that you have. That would have been a contact 0x and potentially might not end up counting this lap for Robbie Gibbs. Still 6.5 minutes and change to go in the session. Plenty of time to get your times down.
Zach Rattray-White's just aborted a flying lap. Jared Filsell is on another very, very good one. We're about to see Robbie Gibbs complete this lap, so he must think it's still valid. But we didn't see quite as much first sector improvement as we'd like. Middle sector we just saw, and the final sector, if he's got it, there is no improvement there. Not sure why we saw that lap completed. Filsell is my one to watch right now, by the way, because he could extend that provisional pole by a big bunch based on his first and second sectors, and it looks tidy enough for this final one.
It certainly does. Brings it down to a 135.69. Jared Filsell, no stranger to pole positions here over a single lap. Barely anyone can overcome him when he's here in a V8SCOPS session. His participation in the championship has been a bit patchier in recent seasons, but we'll certainly see him committing to this first round. O'Sullivan trying to break into the top 10 as Campbell makes a massive improvement. The grid and go number 26 up to P3 and into the 135s for the first time.
He had some really good performances last season, maybe let down by the strategy a little bit on some occasions. But yeah, he moves up into third, just completing his flying lap. There's one driver in this group who hasn't set a lap time yet. It's the 11 of Ryan Jones. He's halfway around on a flying lap right now that I'm sure he's gonna hope will count.
Yeah, Ryan Jones was around inside the top 20 in practice, so we should be able to see him get into those positions if he commits to the end of this one. It's a nice braking into the final chicane, bouncing off the curbs once again. Not much of a slide off the exit of the final corner, so this should be a lap time that counts for Mr. Jones. 136.4, and that will put him 23rd for the moment.
Remember, it's combined lap times, Quali Group 1 and Quali Group 2, so he's not just compared against these drivers he's on track with right now, but everyone we saw from the previous group of qualifying. If the track's quick right now, he needs to set a time not to necessarily match Jared Filsell, but to beat all of the drivers we saw from the previous segment. Puts him in 23rd of 38.
And for context, Blake Warboys in 13th place was the top driver from the first qualifying group. So looks like our predictions for the top times staying in the top 10 at the end have not come to fruition, but still some solid times being set in that first session. Zach Rattray-White then will be trying his best to gain the 2/10 he needs to take provisional pole back from Jared Filsell. It's been amazing seeing Rattray-White's development over the last few years. We would see him gradually make his way up through the field as he made his improvements. He's it's not only supercars that he has raced in as well. He's been quite active in the dirt scene as of recent, and coming up very soon, later on in the month, we'll be getting the first rounds of the Sprint Car Pro Invitational Series, which will certainly be a fun time here on Wednesday nights on SimSpeed TV. So keep tuned to the socials for that. Matthew Bowler committing to the end of a lap here. Looks like the start of a new hot lap for him at the moment. Sitting eighth.
White abandoned a flying lap there as well, and with the amount of time left in the session, he'll just get the new tyres on, get the out lap, and be able to go one more time.
Reigning champion Jake Maloney has not had a very productive session thus far, only 17th place in the session, setting the same time down to the 1000th as Wayne Burke from the first group. So need to see a couple more improvements to be made from the Trans-Tasman Racing #1 car. Bowler's lap for the moment looking reasonably competitive, 27.4 in Sector 1. Sector 2 looking good as well. Gentle turn in for the chicane here, and he doesn't ride across that white
he's backed off.
anti-cut curb. He has backed off, hasn't he?
Jake Maloney, you saw starting a flying lap, and that's going to be his final opportunity. So everyone who's on a flying lap now won't be able to get in for a new set of tyres, get out and start another one. It's basically make or break on these flying laps. Someone's just spun in front of Bo Albert exiting turn 8. So that's qualifying done for someone. And you've got personal best sectors for James Scott. Matthew Bowler, yeah, he's backed off. And this is the damaged car that spun exiting turn 8.
And it is the number 1 of Jake Maloney. And that late in the session, there's not going to be any chance for him to make any improvements. So title defense, maybe not getting off to the start he wanted, but at the very least he won't be starting at the very back. Last few times to come in here very shortly, as it's the final hot laps beginning for a lot of these drivers.
That's the end of a flying lap for Robbie Gibbs. That was no improvement, so qualifying's done for him. But there are PB sectors out there for some other drivers. James Scott put a couple together. Luke Rosella has found one. Jared Filsell, this is going to be his final flying lap. First sector a 10th down. PB in the middle sector. He's going to need to have eaten every morsel of curb for this one to be an improvement. And it is.
Very
nice. Final
nice.
sector. Absolute commitment.
Awesome stuff. And well, Luke Rosella wiggling on his way to the line there. Looks like that might be the end of his session there. Sean Campbell coming to, is this the end of a hot lap or the start of a new one? 1:35.8. Campbell gets into second place. Grid and go on the front row.
Kobe Jones also completes a flying lap that's not a personal best. He remains in 7th. Trey White on a flying lap that could count. Matthew Bowler on an in lap. I don't think this will count for him. And then Bo Albert also with a personal best middle sector. He sits in 10th with his new team.
That he does. Looking very good indeed. One thing that I couldn't help but notice about Bill Cell in particular was I don't know if this is my eyes playing tricks on me, but it looked like his front ride height was a bit higher than some of the other Camaros that we'd seen. Big slide for Bo Albert in the background there as Rattray White comes to the line. 1:35.84, but it's not going to be enough for him. No improvement in position. And we've just got a few drivers left to come across the line here. Tom Freer is going to go into pit lane, and it's the same for Ryan O'Sullivan, who sits just outside the top 10. Yeah, it looks like everyone's done with the session now.
There's no one left on a flying lap. You saw the last ones. It was Bo Albert and Luke Rosella and those there for Jones.
Yeah,
I knew that he'd already completed a flying lap. Those tyres were no good. I don't think he was improving either. Well, I don't know what he's doing, but I'll let him get away with it because, like I said, the track's basically cold now.
Yeah, it was like, whoop, hang on a minute. Pit lane was about a corner ago. So that's going to be the end of qualifying. And, well, the grid will be as follows for round 1 of 2026. Jared Filsell starts on pole position for the first round of the new season, and Sean Campbell alongside him in the Grid and Go Esports number 26. Zach Rattray White will start in 3rd place alongside Robbie Gibbs, who's the top of the Chiefs Esports Club cars. James Scott, his teammate and champion of 2024, will start in 5th place alongside Synergy Sim Racing's Tom Freer. Excellent job from Tom there. Kobe Jones will start in 7th place, alongside Luke Rosella for Lobs Esports, teammate to Jared Filsell. Matthew Bowler starting in 9th place with Bo Albert rounding out our top 10.
Starting from 11th, Ryan O'Sullivan. And it's the Ryan row with Ryan Jones going to 12th right at the tail end of the session. Took a long while to get a lap in and then pulled together a pretty decent one. Dylan Rudd will start from 13th. Brady Myers from 14th on the grid. Nice helmet for Rudd there. Very nice. Some good liveries, some that need a bit of work, but some interesting helmet designs out here as as well. Blake Warboys is the highest placed driver from Group 1 in qualifying, I believe, with 15th place as it ended up settling. The drivers from Group 2 were just too quick. Sam Blacklock gets to 16th in the combined grid. And then in 17th is Wayne Burke for Vermilion Esports. Jake Maloney in 18th for Trans-Tasman Racing, your reigning V8 SCOPS champion, back there on the 9th row of the grid. 10th row of the grid has Adam Briggs for Synergy Sim Racing and Emily Jones for Trans-Tasman Racing.
Starting 21st, Jacob O'Reilly. He will have Will Buchanan alongside him in the AITX Revolution E-Racing 281. Darren Lobb will be starting from pit lane, but qualified well enough for 23rd. Paul Young will be all alone on the 12th row of the grid there, the Phase 4 Camaro starting in 24th. In 25th place, Banter Alliance, James Chastanerf has got Hayden Veld alongside in his V8 SCOPS debut for Eclipse Sim Sports. Kurt Stenberg in TTR number 47 has got William Sapstead for company. 10th place in the championship last season for Sapstead on row number 14 for the first round of the new season. Seth Brown starts 29th and has Jordan Mazzaroli for company on row 15.
38 car grid is completed by Angus Lawford in 31st, Brian Borg in 32nd, William Brown in 33rd, Rain Campbell in 34th, Jamie Dyke in 35th, Russell Pepperell in 36th, and then Brett Loxton, and no qualifying time from Thomas Freeman? He does not appear here.
Yeah, Thomas Freeman made a habit last season of not setting qualifying times, so potentially a last first challenge there.
We know that Darren Lobb may not take to the grid. We're about to get underway.
That is correct. Revs rise, and the season will officially start here for V8 SCOPS 2026. A great start from Jared Filsell, and yeah, you really see that his front ride height is a lot higher than the other cars there. Some setup tricks maybe. Jared Filsell, no stranger to that, a side-by-side through turn 1. Sean Campbell has lost second place to Zach Rattray-White, and he may lose third to Robbie Gibbs. A clean start for the field, but now they get into the chicane section of the lap, which is where things will start to get a bit leery. Too wide. 15 deep, my apologies.
Yeah, you've got to mind that apex curve at turn 4, and everyone did, heading through turn 5, breaking into turn 6, looking at Ryan Jones and looking at a couple of cars that have come to grief at turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, William Brown, one of them, the other being Rain Campbell, I think. Darren Lobb starting from pit lane behind everyone else, remains last in line, but we will see. Jared Filsell and Zach Rattray-White start to break away from the rest of the field. Campbell has succeeded in defending third place from Robbie Gibbs, but at what cost? He's lost about half a second to our top two as they come to the hairpin for the first time. Some changes for position will inevitably happen here. Luke Rosella and Bo Albert side by side through the hairpin, and we see Ryan O'Sullivan trying to take advantage of that. Oh, view blocked, but my goodness, Luke Rosella with a wild ride out of the hairpin.
3 wide, and there's a little bit of a kink there as you come onto the straight. There are a couple of other cars 3 wide exiting the hairpin as well. It is a massive, massive choke point here. Now to fly across the curbs of the final chicane for the first of 46 times in this race. Jared Filsell leads, but Zach Rattray-White is breathing down the back of the pole sitter's neck.
He's alongside into turn 1, around the outside of turn 2, might work for Zach Rattray-White. They are side by side, our leaders making their way to the chicane. Filsell's going to try and defend, and he will succeed in doing so, but Zach Rattray-White has come here to play.
And there we go. So on the second lap, tyre temperature coming in, and Zach Rattray-White picking up some pace. Filsell maybe just a little knocked around by that, because it's let Sean Campbell and Robbie Gibbs, 3rd and 4th place, get back. We had a top 2 breakaway. Dylan Rudd gets escorted off the road at turn 5, and a dodgy rejoin spins some cars around. This is a hot race already.
Yeah, and the biggest loser out of all of that was Jake Maloney, who is still stopped by the side of the circuit. Our reigning champion now down to 36th place as he finally gets back up to speed, but that was disastrous for Maloney.
Slowdowns for Gibbs, Myers, Bowler, Buchanan and Dyke right now as they've gone through turns 7 and 8.
Oh dear. A lot of drivers with issues here in the second lap. Oh, James Chastaneuf with a spin, and it looks like Shasty gets back up to pace there, but there's some drama up ahead there. Robbie Gibbs losing out quite a bit. Brady Myers then for Trans-Tasman Racing trying to defend as Sean Campbell is the next driver to get a slowdown. Is he?
He's cut the chicane. Yeah, Jake Scott is about to take third place away from him down the inside. Jared Filsell sets a new fastest lap of the race. Campbell still serving a slowdown. It wasn't a curb hop. It was a complete straight line at the chicane there. But Albert picks up a new fastest lap of the race. There are some big winners and big losers in this opening 2 laps.
Yeah, absolutely. Biggest gainer in the field looks to be a three-way tie. Angus Lawford, Russell Pepperell and Thomas Freeman all up 9 positions apiece. The driver that's fallen down the hardest is Jake Maloney, 36th at the moment, 18 spots down. Darren Lobb setting the fastest lap now after starting from the pits. He's gotten up to speed very nicely, but will he be able to make his way any further forward? He might need a couple of safety car interventions and some jostling around the pit strategy to get that done. All right, now we'll get a replay of the lap 1 incident that we saw with Bo Albert and Luke Rosella. Zach Rattray-White still pressuring Jared Filsell for the lead on live pictures, so that's certainly not going to be over by any stretch. Potentially we'll see the pass made, but here we go. Jay Kennedy flying the drone on the replay. There's the 3-wide contact. Rosella spat out to the grass, just avoiding getting into the wall.
Jared Filsell still leads. Zach Rattray-White, great exit from the final corner, is alongside him. That's going to be the inside for turn 1. The momentum belongs to Rattray-White as well.
Certainly does, and he'll try his best to get the lead in turn 1, but Filsell, there's contact. He gets shuffled wide, does Rattray-White. Filsell's not afraid to get the elbows out at any time of day, and Rattray-White isn't either. More contact on the way down to the first chicane.
Well, they've almost deliberately run into each other. I think Filsell's lifted the throttle, made Rattray-White go into him. Rattray-White's got the inside for turn 5, trying to clear him before the braking zone at turn 6, but he can't, and they're deliberately rubbing each other here. And Filsell's asking for contact. He's got the pads up and he's saying, box me.
Certainly. Well, has to give up the lead in the short term, but Rattray-White is certainly under pressure. The defense into the chicane then, as James Scott and Sean Campbell have made up all the time they've lost. Meanwhile, Kobe Jones has found the wall.
No flashing yellow light. He's still got an engine, but he's stopped there.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere quickly. Need to give way for the rest of the field. Filsell getting back up the inside of Rattray-White on the way out of the hairpin as we get another view of what happened to Sean Campbell. And that's where he picked up the slowdown, avoided damaging the car. Our leaders are side by side again on the way down the back straight. Filsell should surely have the advantage here. You'll see that slight difference in ride height at the front. I think that's what's giving Filsell the pace. He's got a bit more speed down the straights as a result of he's got drivers coming into pit lane. Sean Campbell and Tom Freer as the safety car is out for Kobe Jones.
Yeah, so just as the safety car's called, a bunch of drivers are running for pit entry. These other drivers will want to get around quickly, lest they be caught out. Where is the safety car? Physically, I mean. Dan Stevens, where are you? He's further up here.
Right there. Yep. So they've come out very quickly in the BMW M2. Dan Stevens, our safety car driver for V8SCOPS, and that will bring the field under control now, down to about 80 kilometers per hour.
Only the top 11 stay out. Everyone behind has now pitted, and I think that's a good advantage for them at this time of the race. The top 11 are caught behind the safety car. Everyone else has pitted, will catch up before these drivers get an opportunity to pit. And no doubt there are plenty of replays between our race leaders to look at, but also what has brought out this safety car and stricken Kobe Jones on the exit of turn 7.
Yeah, quite difficult to figure that out, but Dylan Rudd and Luke Rosella made contact. Right here, Rosella's in the green car. This is what ultimately sent Jake Maloney around. So it was the run into turn 6 here. A little bit of a shuffle there. Luke Rosella giving the hurry up to Dylan Rudd, and then the rejoin for Dylan Rudd there sent him into Blacklock, which then sent him into Mr. Maloney. So that's what ultimately got our reigning champion into the wall, running down in 35th now. And we'll very shortly find out what happened to Luke Rosella. And considering that we just heard Jay Kennedy say, "Oh my," in the background, I think we've got quite a big incident to dissect. Just hearing. Let's remember Jay saying Kobe Jones was in this lead group at the time of contact. I've got to wonder what this replay is going to tell us here. Run out of turn 7. It's going to be quite the difficult one for Kobe. So we're finding the best angle, but keep an eye on the Chiefs car behind of Bo Albert. Jones defensive on the inside there alongside car number 41 of Tom Freer, and then on the way out of turn 7, there's the contact for Kobe Jones. It looked like the Eclipse Camaro there of, I believe, Hayden Veld making contact with him.
Yeah, there's a bit of side-by-side, and then it's in a curved traction zone. He snaps into the wall, does a whole heap of damage. You've got a bunch of other cars coming in now to pit. Zach Rattray-White stays out. Jared Filsell comes in. He's from on high. There's like a 3/4 of a car width there to the inside that Bo goes for. Kobe Jones tries to close the door after he's lost the position, but the next car behind is close enough that they think they can get the lane.
Oh, this is dramatic. Pit exit gets closed under safety car conditions. So this is a massive misstep for Filsell, Scott, Gibbs, Bowler, and Warboys. Jake Maloney as well in the back there. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is... pit exit's just been opened. And this has brought them outside the top 30, this former lead group.
Yeah, let's take a look. They have all loaded up on fuel though. Everyone who pitted early in the safety car took 10 seconds of fuel. But you look at drivers like these and their pit stop times. Jared Filsell, 30 seconds, brimmed it. James Scott, 27 seconds, probably brimmed it. Robbie Gibbs, 25 seconds, near enough brimmed it. So the two strategies are playing out here. That the second compulsory pit stop, when it comes for those who pitted earlier, are going to have long stops. So you've got 3 strategy buckets. The top 5 haven't stopped. 6th through to about 26th have just taken a new set of tyres and a splash of fuel, and about 27th on back have all loaded up on fuel. They are going to either run long this stint or have a really quick second stop. I think that will come back to help Jared Filsell. If you track Filsell versus Zach Rattray-White when we get racing, if Filsell can stay within about 30 seconds, within about 40 seconds of that Zach Rattray-White, he's still at a strategy advantage.
Okay, so plenty of intrigue here. The first round of V8SCOPS for 2026 safety car period is ending, and race control still reviewing the lap 2 incident between Blacklock, Albert, and Jones, which brought out the safety car here. Only on the third lap or so, the 6th lap or so of this race. Now the speed will come back up. The current race leader, Zach Rattray-White, has got Bo. Yep, he's going away now. Up to accelerator speed and out of the final chicane. Bo Albert and Ryan O'Sullivan will round out your top 3. It's Eclipse bookending the podium with Chiefs Esports Club in 2nd. Dylan Rudd for Lobs Esports, 4th place ahead of Hayden Veld, who gained quite a bit, largely due to not coming into the pit lane. Our top 5, as we mentioned, have not come into the pits yet. So Sean Campbell is your effective race leader right now.
For Zach Rattray-White, he knows what's up. He didn't wait around to restart this race. As soon as he could go, he went. Stretching out the field is going to be his advantage. He wants to be 10 seconds up the road from Sean Campbell and 40 seconds up the road from Jared Filsell. If he can do that, he's still in contention to win this race. And then, of course, the reverse is true for those drivers leading those other groups. Campbell wants to be within 10 seconds of the race lead. Within about 20 seconds of the race lead would do well for Campbell, given he's already paid one of his compulsory pit stops. And then within 40 or 50 seconds for Jared Filsell.
Righto, so we're expecting those drivers who were held at the pit exit to be going incredibly long on their second stint. Either that or they're going to run to their number and take their final stop early, maybe to try and undercut through some traffic. We will see as well. My apologies, Dylan Rudd is now part of Chiefs Esports Club as well, so it'll take me a bit to get used to those new team rosters. Side by side, meanwhile, we've got some solid racing here. Wayne Burke alongside Ryan Jones. Yeah, that's it. And through the final chicane, that's going to be Burke through, and Jones gives up the position to Jones. Emily is through.
EJ beats RJ. Fastest lap of the race is tumbling because they've had the opportunity to cool off those tyres and string out the field. And Adam Briggs battling in behind Ryan Jones now, still trying to pick up those spots. As Ryan got a little put off. Rattray-White has leapt out of the box. Bo Albert has a slowdown penalty. Montreal did this to him last year.
Yeah.
Briggs just got one there.
It's not ideal. The slowdowns are always an intrinsic part of the racing here. It's incredibly easy to pick them up. Ryan O'Sullivan, meanwhile, has found his way past Bo Albert, and it's now an Eclipse 1-2 at the front of the field.
You do not want that slowdown penalty from turn 4 because it is brutal. Bo Albert's going to have to give up 2 spots from just opening up the exit of that chicane a bit too much. Dylan Rudd is going to get past him. That one might be handed off a little cleaner than versus Ryan O'Sullivan. And then Sean Campbell, he's got fresher tyres. He's got a little bit more fuel on board, and he's already moving up spots, monstering Hayden Veld. Take a look at William Brown. Sapstead's off the road at the hairpin.
Oh, yeah, he's falling down the order quite rapidly. That's a bit wide for William Brown as well. Sapstead then giving up the last couple of positions to Brett Loxton and James Chastaneuf as they find their way down the straight. Sapstead still up 3 spots from where he started. Oh, Blacklock and Brown on the exit of the chicane here. Oh, dear. Oh, that's going to cause some big drama as our drivers that were held at pit exit just came up on that too. Blacklock isn't betraying much from his face, but I would imagine he's quite frustrated from that turn of events. Seth Brown getting up to speed there and moving over to the left side of the track there. Blacklock probably none too happy with that. Jordan Mazzaroli, I think, got involved in all of that as well. That was a mess. I think this might be a tow request.
So did Seth Brown. And so it begins going into the final chicane here. Blacklock's on the outside, ahead, but around the outside.
Yeah. Oh, goodness me, there's Mazzaroli going in, and it looks like, was that Burke or Jones that collected them on the outside? Kobe Jones in particular? Dearie me, that was a terrible incident there. It all starts when you're trying to keep the outside line through that chicane. It's very difficult to run side by side through there at the best of times. Basically got to make sure that you're clear. Well, let's give the people what they want, Jay says. Kurt Stenberg on Zoom with his unique driving position. He used to just race on a stool, and that's why he has gotten in the habit of hunching forward. He's very close to the wheel indeed, almost like a truck driver, but he still manages to put down some fantastic times, and he's really wheeling it through that final chicane there. 14th place and up 13 spots for Stenny, and could indeed be more by the end of the race, depending on how our top 5 go.
like the quirks of Donald Bradman's technique because of his hours spent practicing against the water tank. That's our Kurt Stenberg, 14th. A couple of quirks to his driving style. Zach Ratcher, like Ryan Sullivan, pulling away in the race lead. Sean Campbell leading his strategy group still in 6th. Jared Filsell making some moves, sits 19 seconds behind the race lead, and I think this has actually still worked out pretty well for him. He's got 30 seconds of fuel on board. He will go really long here, and he's picking off a couple of spots as he goes. He's ahead of all of this.
Yep, 3 wide. Brett Loxton losing out there, but 27th place car Jacob O'Reilly cannot take advantage. Maloney and Rosella trading spots just behind. 2 Mustang drivers on heck of a recovery here, but Maloney's been shuffled wide on the way into the chicane there, and Rosella grabs it. Now Darren Lobb, who started from pit lane, will try his best to find his way through at the hairpin. Oh, little bump ahead there. Filsell making a move on Chasteneuf. Meanwhile, that's Matthew Bowler getting shuffled wide there as Loxton and O'Reilly both find the inside at the apex. And oh, here we go again. Oh, Brett Loxton turned around, hold the brakes, manages to get it turned around again, but disaster for Jacob O'Reilly, and Luke Rosella falling down as well.
O'Reilly's lost his bumper. A couple of cars coming together, front to rear contact, spinning around for Loxton into the inside wall. So, I don't know.
Yeah, looked like O'Reilly was having some trouble with wheel spin on the way out of the hairpin there, trying to recover a slide. And unfortunately, there was no room for error at that point. So that's what resulted in quite the pile-up down the fastest section of the racetrack. That was very hazardous. Good to see that not many other drivers got involved, but we do have a steadily growing list of drivers that have come into the pits for repair, and some of them haven't come out. Kobe Jones, his race is effectively done thanks to his tow. Rosella, O'Reilly, Loxton, Blacklock, Seth Brown, Jordan Mazzaroli, all in the pits with heavy damage to repair. Sean Campbell, meanwhile, has managed to catch up to the top 5 again. He hasn't really made any moves on Dylan Rudd ahead, though, so we'll have to wait and see what the Grid and Go Mustang has in store for us. He's eased into this stint nicely, leader of the cars that have come through pit lane.
He's only 15 seconds ahead of Jared Filsell, who has 20 seconds more fuel on board. So there are 3 different ways to skin this cat at the moment, it'd seem. Zach Rattray White will at least keep his nose clean. There's Rudd down the inside of Veld exiting turn 2.
Nice traction on the way out for Dylan Rudd, and it looked like Veld just gave him it in the end, recognised that he's in it for the long haul, as are the rest of our current top 5, so no use fighting positions too hard this early on. We're still going to have 34 laps remaining in this race, and another pit stop to go once they cross the line next.
So again, 5 cars that haven't pitted yet are the top 5 on track. Rattray White, O'Sullivan, Boa, Albert, Dylan Rudd, Hayden Veld. Sean Campbell came in for a quick splash of fuel and a new set of tyres early in the safety car. And the next lap behind the train, a whole bunch of other drivers came in and really filled up their boots. And they can think long game, and they should be. Jared Filsell's up to 20th, James Scott's up to 21st. Robbie Gibbs also coming through.
Not many changes for position up the front of the field. Looks like Paul Young has just lost a couple. Blake Warboys passing him for 28th, and then Rain Campbell found his way through as well. At the moment, the fastest lap remains in the hands of Ryan O'Sullivan, who's being dragged along nicely behind his teammate Zach Rattray White. Meanwhile, we see Wayne Burke now out driving for Vermilion Esports. Looked like a big fuel save into turn 1 there. So looks to me like Burke is going to be trying to play this stint a little bit longer. His pit stop was slightly shorter than Myers and Freer up ahead, only by about 0.8 of a second, but that's still a few litres of fuel that he'll have to contend with at the next stop.
Just ahead of Emily Jones, who also managed to get 10 litres of fuel in alongside the tyres and is plus 10 positions from where she started 20th on the grid. So that all works out pretty well in the strategy for Emily Jones. Sun's out, track temperature coming up just a tiny bit. You can't let your hair down because you've got to go to the hairpin.
For sure. Make sure that your traction is optimal. Very stable track temperature that we've seen over the course of the event thus far. It's come back down to 23 Celsius. It's been hovering in that 22 to 24 degree range, which is pretty optimal conditions for these cars, for these tyres. At the moment, most of the drivers just in the management stage now. First few laps down, a safety car period down as well. Pit stops taken for the majority of the field, and now in it for the long haul in the second stint of this race. Still the first stint for our top five, though, remaining as they are. Battling going on here between Wayne Burke and Tom Freer, former teammates at Synergy Sim Racing. But Wayne Burke making the move to Vermilion Esports recently and has lost none of his pace. Is a former race winner in V8SCOPS as well. I believe has taken a couple of enduro wins on his way through as well. So it'll be interesting to see this battle work out between the former teammates. Sean Campbell then, right in the viewpoint here, as we're looking from the back of Hayden Veld. Campbell, once again, he's not really pushing to move forward. He did have fresher tyres than the top five, and it only takes a few laps difference to really see the benefit of those new tyres. But he seems to be playing this quite safe at the moment. He seems happy in sixth.
Yeah, depending on what happens, he could become net race leader. So if you reach a point where the top five pit and then Campbell's leading outright and there's another safety car, I think that saves his bacon somewhat there. Something that gives him the track position back and then erases the fuel deficit he has to Jared Filsell. Those are the three big comparisons. Tom Freer with a slowdown right now. Painful as he carries it through turn one. He already lost a second on the black and just completed with that.
Yeah, Tom Freer falling victim to those dreaded slowdowns here. That's going to give Emily Jones 9th place. 11 spots gained so far for Emily. It's quite impressive for our Split 2 winner, who, you could argue really belongs in Split 1. She's been in Split 1 very consistently over the last couple of years, potentially just not having the time to get a lap down in pre-qualifying that she was happy with, but she certainly made up for it with her performances today.
Upward trajectory seems unstoppable from Split 2 into Split 1, into the top 10 of Split 1. Sean Campbell's patience maybe running out behind Hayden Veld. Needs a different line to get a different exit to be able to use the grip advantage, because if you're just parked behind and following in the same track, it's not enough. And the field spread now has Campbell 7.5 seconds behind Zach Rattray-White. At the restart, they sort of hovered at sort of 2 or 3 seconds. Zach Rattray-White and Ryan O'Sullivan are pulling away. Dylan Rod's pulling into the pit lane for third on track. Or was it fourth?
Third. He was ahead of Bo Albert at the time. But now we are starting to see that pace run out for our drivers who didn't come into the pits under the safety car. It's usually around 15 laps or so that's the general life of these tyres. And with Rudd now completing, actually not quite completing his stop, it's going to be a long one here for Dylan Rudd. He's going to fall outside the top 30 on that one. 19.5 seconds. That's roughly what we'd consider for a long second stint. He'll have to hope for a safety car to get further in touch with the likes of Phil Sell, who's made his way now up to 17th, and he's dragging James Scott along with him. There's Rudd in 31st, coming out. He's the last car on the lead lap now, effectively. So let's see what he can do from here. Yeah. Meanwhile, through the hairpin, Campbell hitting the apex.
So if you think this is about when some of these leaders that haven't stopped yet might look to take it, Zach Rattray White's headed to pit entry. That looks pretty damn committed. I reckon he's coming in. His teammate Ryan O'Sullivan as well. Bo stays out. No pit stop for Bo Albert. Hayden Veld stays out. And that does a whole mammoth amount of work for Zach Rattray White and Ryan O'Sullivan, because he's keeping a few of these other cars behind that have made one of those stops.
Yes, so now the gloves are coming off. Sean Campbell, well aware by now that there will be a pit stop coming in the next couple of laps for Hayden Veld. And he's facing a lot of pressure from Myers and Burke, so he needs to start making moves now if he wants to have a chance at winning this one. Rattray White's pit stop is complete, and it's 18.5 seconds. O'Sullivan, his teammate, with a longer pit stop than that, 26 seconds in the end. So we're seeing some strategy variance among the Eclipse cars. And we've all got a different idea of how to conduct this race. For the moment, though, Veld is the one playing rear gunner effectively for the Eclipse squad, holding off Campbell, Myers and Burke very nicely. It looks like Emily Jones not too far behind either. So we're going to be seeing this battle compress quite a bit here at the end of this lap. Most positions gained thus far for Thomas Freeman, and we expected that with the pace that he usually carries, starting at the back of the grid. Here is Jared Filsell, effective race leader, with Thomas Freeman right behind him. Freeman, of course, coming in the lap after, the lap before Jared Filsell under the safety car.
Well, stays out. Hayden Veld stays out. Sean Campbell stays behind Hayden Veld. This next group of cars bounce over those curbs, Borg behind Scott.
That's the fight for 15th place at the moment. I'd be very interested to see just how far Bo Albert and Hayden Veld try to go, as Jamie Dyke gets up the inside of Robbie Gibbs at turn 1. And Matthew Bowler, fresh out of pit lane, actually not fresh out of pit lane, he pitted under the safety car with these guys, ends up making the move on Dyke in the end. Got James Shastner with them as well. All of these drivers on roughly the same strategy as things stand. Nice battle for 18th spot. Phil Sell making up another position meanwhile. He's gotten into 12th, making his way past Russell Pepperell.
Cell has moved up into 12th position now. From the pit stops I'm seeing, I think your total time combined from both pit stops is going to need to be about 40 seconds. So I think those that took the 10-second stops are still going to need 30. Those that took 30 are only going to need 10. And then we've seen a few of these green flag stops in the order of 20 to 25 seconds, where their second stop is going to be, therefore, 20 to 15. And what that means is that Jared Filsell, despite missing the pit lane initially, being held at pit exit, is net race leader and comfortably right now.
In comes the first assigned penalty. Dylan Rudd has gotten a drive-through penalty for his unsafe rejoin that ended up taking out Jake Maloney. Sam Blacklock caught in the middle of that. The incident that we saw back on lap 2. So that's not ideal for the new driver to Chiefs Esports Club. He will fall down the order a little further and have some more work to do. Will certainly be hoping for another safety car to try and get himself back up the field. This fight for the effective race lead at the moment, obviously it will change when these guys come in for their second stop, as Luke Rosella has now picked up the next penalty. That's for the contact with Dylan Rudd. So both Rudd and Rosella, that's the contact that ended up starting the incident that got the penalty for Rudd. So both of them coming out with penalties for that one.
When, as we approach lap 20, does Bo Albert and Hayden Veld hit? Sean Campbell is waiting for them to do it, but they aren't yet. Not Albert, not Veld, just two cars that haven't seen pit lane yet in this race.
Meanwhile, Seth Brown's gotten the 5-second penalty for contact with William Sapstead, and the big incident that we saw on lap 2 involving Sapstead, Chasteneuf, Stenberg, and the 530 as well. That is going to be a post-race investigation. Hayden Veld driving car 530. So race control evidently deciding that a couple of those incidents required a bit further of a perusal. Paul Young coming in very early for his second stop. It's going to be lap 20. He's going to have 26 laps to cover by the end of the race here. I have to wonder. Yeah, Rain Campbell did do the same indeed. So they're going to be on tyres that are screaming for life by the end of the race.
I mean, you do it to get on a new set of tyres now, and maybe get a third set if there's a safety car. This is a bit of a move now beginning to happen. This is not what Campbell needs.
Oh, certainly not. Brady Myers making the move at the hairpin, but Campbell getting the better exit on the way out with the outside line and how the track widens out on the exit there. So it looks like Campbell may very well stay ahead, but we'll see Myers continue to force the issue here, and he completes the move on the way into the final chicane. So Campbell back down to fourth place as a result. Could be back down to fifth if Wayne Burke has anything to say about it.
Yeah, Campbell was around the outside there and just braked a car length early and gave Brady Myers that. So now Myers is the leader of the safety car splash and dash strategy.
Ryan Jones, meanwhile, very wide out of turn 2. Adam Briggs moves through into 9th spot. Always good to see Briggsy out here. And well, Ryan's going to be having a big amount of pressure from behind, because look who is the next car back. It's Jared Filsell. This is what happened between Briggsy and Jones. Contact on the way into turn 1, and Jones ending up locking up on the way through. That was a bit of a clumsy incident between those two drivers, but ultimately they both work out okay, not losing any positions.
Both of them picked up a couple of slowdowns across this race in some inopportune places. They both managed it at turn 4, so their consistency hasn't been strong, but the race pace has been going okay. Filsell is about to monster them, and he has got heaps more fuel on board as well. This keeps playing to his advantage. He moves into the top 10 with one big stop already under his belt, and one other compulsory pit stop still to come.
Yeah, Filsell's going to be flying in the second half of this race. Incident under review for contact between Jacob O'Reilly and Brett Longston on lap 10. So much happened in the first part of the race that race control, though they have been steadily working, have not gotten too far in the penalties list. And now Briggs goes wide in turn 1. Filsell is through and into 9th. Continuing to have magnificent pace here at the moment, setting low 137s when Freer and Lawford up ahead of him, only setting low 138s, and it's roughly the same for Veld, Myers, Campbell, Burke and Jones. They're running mid to high 37s, so Filsell is on a steady march forward right now.
And the story that needs told is on the timing column there. Filsell 9th, 15 seconds behind the race leader who hasn't stopped. 9 seconds behind Brady Myers, who only has 10 seconds of fuel added. This is all coming up Jared Filsell, and he might not have thought that when he had to pit a lap later than a bunch of these other cars when he got held at pit exit. But the seas have opened up, and he has taken a lot of the pit stop time away. Now, Brady Myers got impatient with Sean Campbell sitting behind Hayden Veld. Is it Brady Myers now to try to push past the no stop, no new tyres Veld?
Yeah, Bo Albert, who's on the same strategy as Veld, is running times pretty consistently quicker, and Veld continues to stay out of pit lane, getting a tiny hurry up from Myers on the way into the final chicane. Let's see if there's anything to be said about it here. I gotta say, it's been a great defensive drive from Hayden Veld thus far. He's kept these guys behind despite a ton of pressure, but Bo Albert has somehow been able to gain a bit more pace out of his car on these old tires, and he stretched his lead out to nearly 7 seconds. Last lap though, the fastest car on track, Zach Rattray White, 136.9. That is some solid pace from the number 17, though he did have a bit of trouble getting by James Chastaneuf a bit earlier on.
Zach Rattray White's just done the same lap time 2 laps in a row, so he sits 25 seconds behind the race lead. He is at a bit of a fuel deficit to Jared Filsell and a few of those others, but he's not out of the picture for a top 10. And at the beginning of the season like this, you want to win races. You're strategizing and racing to try to win races. To bank some points at the first round of the season is something you can build from all year. Here goes the patience running out.
Oh no, and around goes Hayden Veld, and there's further contact between Myers and Burke. Campbell, Jones and Freer say thank you very much, guys. We are going to take those effective top 3 positions. But that's what happens when you are running behind a car that has yet to pit for such a long time. The grip was going for Hayden Veld, and evidently a slight overestimation from Brady Myers as Bo Albert comes into pit lane.
So does Hayden Veld. That looks like it could be the end of the fuel range. Maybe Veld is beginning to lift and coast a bit. Myers had a dive at him at the hairpin. The two of them made contact. It was sort of nose to most of the way up the door, but it came from a long way back, and then it triggered everything else as they parked it up at the apex, and everyone else looked for a way through the chaos.
So for the moment, it's still looking like your effective race leader is going to be Jared Filsell. He's just made his way past Wayne Burke and moved up into 6th. Bo Albert getting out of the pits in 21st, as there's the contact between Myers and Veld, and it looked like Campbell got into the rear of Myers on the way through the hairpin as well.
Halfway sideways already when Wayne Burke tries to sneak up the inside, and then the two of them lock, and it turns Myers even further. So Campbell leads the race. Lily Jones and Tom Freer, the top 5, with 10 seconds of fuel to their name at first stop. Jared Filsell with 30 is just 6 seconds behind the race lead and in 6th position. This is where those other drivers that have just pitted have come back out. Bo Albert, there in 21st.
Veld all the way down in 27th. Looks like pretty similar pit stops for them, though. Veld had about 2 seconds shorter pit stop on his way through. Now Filsell is coming up on the back of Angus Lawford in the Project 36, number 52. Is getting chased down quite substantially by Wayne Burke. Berkey trying his best to stay in touch here with Filsell, because they are effectively on the same strategy now, and if he can keep the pace up, if he can get back on the wagon, so to speak, might be able to mount an undercut. But I think against a driver like Jared Filsell, it's it's a really long shot to try anything to overcome him.
The move that a lot of drivers sort of shape for is to go wide out of 5 and down the inside of turn 6, but it's led to contact more often than it's led to a successful pass. I think you need a pretty decent tyre offset. Jared Filsell keeps wanting to think about it.
Nice.
You wouldn't doubt there are circumstances where he could.
Oh yeah, certainly. When the gloves are off and you know it's the final lap of the race, you can count on Jared Filsell to make big moves. He has another look up the inside of Lawford at the hairpin, and this time it looks like he might get it done. Lawford, though, picking up the power nicely. Not much room for Wayne Burke to squeeze through. Slight contact at high speed. He's in the slipstream of Filsell now on the way into the final chicane. Is he going to give Filsell a run here? Looks like there might have been a little bit of bump drafting to do there. Lawford making life difficult for Wayne Burke, and man, that's a lot of curb there at the final chicane. Not enough for a slowdown, though.
Freer has one from third position, though. He's dropped behind Brady Myers and managed to just clear it. So Freer got one up in the podium spots, and that drops him back to just a little bit closer towards this battle. He's the next car up the road for Jared Filsell on his charge in the mid-stint.
Jake Maloney into the pits for the third time in this race. The first time, of course, was for damage repair. And this should be the start of his final stint now. It's a really tough go for the reigning champion. Number 1 may be on his car, but it's going to be about number 28 or 29 in terms of position when he makes his way out of pit lane. Sean Campbell for gridandgo.com esports, one of the big players on the global sim racing scene. We often see Campbell competing in iRacing special events and some of the biggest championships in the world of sim racing. Absolute weapon in any car he puts his mind to. I love this view of the hairpin, by the way. Really shows the slight variance of lines on the way out. There's a lot of track to use on the exit. That originally, when the track opened, that was the entry to pit lane off to the left on the exit of the corner. And the width of the tarmac has been preserved over the years. Some drivers going a bit narrower than others. That's Ryan O'Sullivan making the move on Jamie Dyke.
Other cars are going to dive to pit lane as I see. Angus Lawford's in, Brian Borg is in. This is second stop for these that pitted with the safety car.
Yes, and considering what you've just said in our production chat, David, I think we might be expecting another pit stop from Jared Filsell sooner rather than later. A little bit of up in the air over exactly how much time Filsell and those around him spent stopped in pit lane.
The problem I've got is a stationary number of them in the pit lane, and not any guarantee that that is time spent stationary in their pit box instead of stationary in the fast lane at the exit waiting for the safety car train. And they will have started the race, almost everyone on full tanks, pitting at lap 5. There's only so much you can get in, so I don't think Filsell actually has as much fuel advantage as I might have thought. We're on board with William Brown in the 24th right now. Did you just crop that camera differently, or did it genuinely move? Okay, we've got one of the burger pan cameras.
Yeah, looks like it. Brown holding on nicely to 9 spots up, and though Hayden Veld did just rocket past him there on fresh tyres, I think Brown's going to be all right towards the end of the race. Actually is reaching the end of his fuel stint at the moment, so I think he'll be coming in very shortly for a second stop. Adam Briggs just did that, and so did Russell Pepperell. Pepperell's teammate at Trans-Tasman, Kurt Stenberg, then moves up into 11th and now 10th as a result of that, as he's chasing down Thomas Freeman. These guys on the same strategy, same for everyone ahead of them. Kurt Stenberg, one of the last of the drivers who pitted very early on. Meanwhile, penalty for Brady Myers. That was for that contact that we saw with Wayne Burke on the 23rd lap. That's pretty significant there.
Yeah, it is, because as it sits right now, 5 seconds drops Brady Myers in behind James Scott into 6th place, whereas at the moment he's on track for a podium. So that could be a costly 5 seconds with how close everyone is still at the top of the field. Highest running car that I think is getting to the end is Angus Lawford in 24th. Adam Briggs, a bunch of those others have taken their second stop. Decent amount of fuel's gone in, and I think they can make this final run. We take a look at the replay here. Burke, sorry, someone had to slow down.
Yeah, I think that's Tom Freer. Jared Filsell has moved past him now into 4th. Filsell now completing 23 laps on this stint, which is round about what we expect the fuel mileage of these cars to last. Freeman and Stenberg, the next cars to jump into pit lane. Williams Apstead going to follow them in. Drivers are now setting themselves up for this final stint, and looks like we're pretty much right in the middle for what we're expecting the final pit stop window to be.
Yeah, the longest anyone went in their first stint was 23 or 24 laps. Freeman's just done a 24-lap middle stint, so when we were at 24 to go, we could have stopped and made it to the end. Now you're looking at about 3/4 of the tank to make it home is what you would need to add.
Keeping an eye for the moment on Bo Albert, who's fresh out of pit lane for what we presume is his second. No, he's only just taken his first stop, so we should expect him to come back into the pits maybe a few laps from the end. He'll take advantage of his tyres being in their optimal phase at the moment as much as he can, get track position, and considering that he's got about 18 laps or so difference between himself and Matthew Bowler on tyre life, should be an easy move to make. Jared Filsell has come into pit lane for the second time, so now we'll keep our eyes peeled on what his pit stop time actually is. By virtue of starting on pole position, he will have the final pit box at the end of the pit lane here.
James Chastnut's just been sent by, I think, someone who's bombing for the pit entry. So another one of those going on. But yeah, Jared Filsell taking his final stop. He was just beginning to catch the top 3. And I think he decided, all right, well, time to get in and get my second stop done. There's been a conflagration towards pit entry.
Yeah, we saw the traces of smoke there. Shasty has gotten back up to speed nicely, but losing a couple of positions, and Blake Warboys was the other car involved. Let's see then. I believe Warboys, yeah, he is currently in the pits, so he was going for pit entry, and you'll see demonstrated once again the dark side of pit entry at Montreal. Bit too late on the brakes, and around goes Shasty into the runoff area. Comes to a stop, and fortunately for him, able to avoid getting cleaned up by the cars coming up on him.
That feels like exactly what you were telling us about before this race, like to a T.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. This is the viewer ball from Warboys. See, later braking point for pit entry than for the final corner. It's difficult because, like, you know, considering the way the circuit is arranged and looking at it from above, there's not really many other ways you can shift the pit entry there. It's just an intrinsic part of racing at this circuit which you need to be aware of. 4 more cars coming into pit lane. Scott, Freer, Jones and Rattray White will be their last stops done and dusted. Quite a bit of damage for the blue and white machine there. I believe that's Darren Lobb, yes, who ended up getting some damage somewhere along the way, potentially when Chastaneuf had his incident. But after starting from the pits, it's been quite an impressive recovery from Lobb, hasn't it? Solidly in the midfield now.
Gibson Vels with slowdowns at the moment. Campbell, is he at risk of being undercut by Jared Filsell? I don't think so, because he still had 3 or 4 seconds advantage on track for the pit stops. See exactly how much fuel Campbell is going to need. This is some of those drivers recovering from their slowdown penalties, and with James Scott just in behind Tom Freer and Angus Lawford. Here's another one of those looks to the inside here. You got to get given that room, otherwise that move doesn't work. James Scott does get given a big heap of room by Tom Freer, but then gives him a little hello again on the exit.
Yeah, both Scott and Freer fresh out of pit lane. They're on their outlaps at the moment. Meanwhile, Angus Lawford pitted 4.5 laps ago. So a tyre advantage for these guys as Sean Campbell and Brady Myers and Wayne Burke are the next cars to come into the pits. Emily Jones somewhat repeating what she did in Split 2 and staying out the longest of anyone.
So Filsell's fed out into a bunch of traffic. I was going to ask for the comparison, Jared Filsell versus Sean Campbell, but this is Jared Filsell's view. His tyres are about to be right and primo, but look where he is. He's in behind Veld and Brown, and I don't think they owe him any particular favours. Brown comes into the pit lane, but Hayden Veld has played blocker for his teammates since about lap 4.
And he's going to do the same here. Filsell looks up the inside of turn 1, but Veld's not giving him any room. Sean Campbell comes out ahead of them as there was evidently contact between those two. Filsell having to yield to Veld, but a big slide for Hayden on the exit of turn 2. Does Filsell go for the outside move at the chicane here? It's certainly possible, but not ideal. Filsell is going to go for the exit here, almost side by side through turn 4 into 5. Is he going to have another look here? Veld is defensive again. Filsell getting frustrated.
Veld's going to send an invoice to his teammates and to Sean Campbell, and this is fair. He's ahead around the outside. He's entitled to it. He gets helped wide, to be honest. It's not a clean pass, even with the pace and speed advantage and grip advantage that Filsell should have. We've seen Filsell stick amazing passes in some unconventional places.
Oh, God. Filsell and Veld are certainly not done with each other here. Veld's got the inside for the hairpin as news comes in for a drive-through penalty for Blake Warboys for his contact with James Chastaneuf. Another tap, another slide. Veld is around and into the wall. Filsell had had enough by that point, but he's cost himself time in the process. Now he'll be under pressure from Myers, Rattray White and Burke. The race unraveling for our pole sitter, and it's certainly unraveled for Hayden Veld.
Well, you saw it coming. Veld was always going to park on the apex. Filsell tried to over-under, but I didn't think that the under was going to be forthcoming, and he's made a bit of contact. It begins here. Now, at all points, Veld has remained on track.
Oh, okay. Down to the
Veld doesn't miss the apex. Veld on the inside pulls it up for the apex, sits on the apex, and then gets a bit of contact. We know they're not in the same race, but Veld's not a lap down, so he doesn't have to move aside for Filsell, and he hasn't, and Filsell has lost his nerve and his temper a bit.
Oh yeah, he's getting mugged at the moment, isn't he? Wayne Burke and Zach Rattray White trying to fight for position behind. Now Filsell's going to be given a little bit of breathing room, but he was getting harassed by the both of them coming into turn 6. And it looks like Brady Myers has worked his way past Filsell as well. Rattray White gets the move done on Burke there. All of these cars have completed their final pit stop, so they are racing to the end. What Filsell wants is to get free of all of this fighting so he can chase after Sean Campbell. But he's not going to get that done there. Sent big wide is Rattray White, and Filsell still behind Wayne Burke after all of that. We've got James Scott right in the mix of all of this as well now. This is what happened on board from Filsell.
So this is the previous one. He's looking to go over-under, but the under never opens up. He hits the rear quarter once, he hits the rear quarter twice. He spins that car around, and then at the hairpin that time, he's locked up, run wide, nothing, no hint of an apex, hasn't turned in, and sent the other Eclipse car off track.
All of this has worked out fantastically for Emily Jones, by the way. She completed her pit stop a lap ago and is ahead of this pack. So it's Campbell and Jones, our top two, as Bo Albert completes his final pit stop, and we can call the field cleansed from now. Albert with a pit stop of 13.3 seconds, but it's gotten worse for Jared Filsell. Drive-through penalty for contact with Hayden Veld, and our pole sitter will not finish on the podium, maybe let alone in the top 10 at this point.
Everyone has made 2 pit stops. We think it's fuel to get to the end. Sean Campbell leads, Emily Jones in second. Third through to 19th. Is this chaos and carnage right here? Everyone will know Filsell has a penalty coming. James Scott goes past. Filsell is going to park up in front of Zach Rattray-White, who he sent off the road a lap ago. They're alongside. This is roles repeated.
Filsell on the inside for the hairpin. He'll try his best to hold on to track position, but no, he's going to force Rattray-White off the track again, and that's going to bring Bo Albert back through into 6th. Filsell had the podium effectively locked in, but unfortunately, he seems to have lost his cool a bit.
If you're on the inside and you don't turn into the corner and you don't leave a car width around the outside there and you make contact and that other car leaves the white lines of the track, you've just gone and pushed them off. So he's lost his cool 3 times going on 4 here. He's got a penalty coming and a podium that was locked up for him. He had elite pace in qualifying. He had so much race pace and he just couldn't hold his nerve and wait for everyone to pit 5 times.
What is going on between Filsell and Rattray-White? That is the 3rd time now that we've seen Filsell and an Eclipse car coming together.
Rattray-White again, wasn't it?
It was Rattray-White, yes.
It was Veld first. Now it's Rattray-White.
Looks like, yeah. So it looks like Jared Filsell and Eclipse Sim Sports do not have the best relationship at the moment. Sorry for the pause, just hearing some words from our producer in the background about the context of the situation. It's, far from ideal circumstances for the first round of the new season, but it's given a massive free kick to our entire top 6. Campbell and Jones benefited from Filsell being held up, and then Wayne Burke, Brady Myers, James Scott and Bo Albert all benefited from Filsell scrapping to try and maintain position. So
it's funny because Hayden Veld was blocking Sean Campbell and that other group, not blocking, but he was holding them up. He was giving them nothing for free. There was a stint in this race where Hayden Veld staying out was really benefiting Jared Filsell through the middle stint. And now when it becomes his turn, he throws the toys out of the pram and then stomps on him and then
return serve. Zach Rattray-White got into the back of Jared Filsell there, and Filsell re-enters the racetrack at the exit of turn 1, got sent way off into the runoff area. Oh dear. Oh, be careful. Oh, squeeze. There's no room given, and they are going to go around at the exit of turn 3. And it looks like Ryan Jones is going to get involved in that as well. Filsell and Rattray-White will keep getting into each other. It's turned into a boxing match now between these two. But who else is going to get involved? Who is the collateral damage out of this?
See, it was one thing when he was hitting these Eclipse cars. Now he's made a traffic jam for everyone. He's hitting cars that have got nothing to do with them, nothing to do with the battle. It's childish, it's embarrassing, and it's not making good viewing either. We've got to change the rating of this show from G to PG in the middle.
Yes.
They're not adult themes though, it's not very adult at all.
No, can't say I disagree. There's more positions being changed there. Brian Borg giving up the spot to Robbie Gibbs, but it's still been a great race for Brian Borg. Up 15 places thus far in this one. Filsell goes into pit lane. I thought for a second that was going to be a dive, but clearly he was just going for pit lane to get his penalty out of the way.
to serve his first drive through of what will be a couple.
Well, that's going to bring our pole sitter outside of the top 20. Wayne Burke and Brady Myers now, it falls to them to battle for third place as Sean Campbell has a 3-second lead over Emily Jones, but one that might be diminishing. Jones ran 0.3 of a second faster on the previous lap, so the lead I think is still on with 10 laps on the board still.
Yeah, so there's some interesting offsets now in the tyre age inside of the top 10. Campbell's are 5 laps old, Emily Jones 4 laps old, and then Wayne Burke versus Brady Myers pitted on the same lap. Bo Albert has cycled back to 5th with the freshest tyres of anyone in the top 10, 2 seconds behind this battle. We've seen how quickly 2 cars battling can result in gigantic losses of time, so he'll still think he stands a chance here for a podium even, with 10 laps to go, soon to be 9.
For sure. Well, fastest car on track last lap was Bo Albert, who's just behind these guys. We'll have to wait and see what the times are like from here. Burke and Myers have 2 laps more on their tyres than Albert. Ryan O'Sullivan, meanwhile, battling with Adam Briggs for 9th. They recently traded spots there at the back end of the top 10. And they've got a big fight behind them as well. Rattray White and Ryan Jones, both victims of the incident with Jared Filsell out of the first chicane, at the head of that fight, with Freeman, Gibbs, Borg, Stenberg, and a whole host of others right behind. The fight will keep going here between Ryan O'Sullivan and Adam Briggs, 2 veterans of supercar racing on iRacing at this point. Adam Briggs has had a couple of teams under his belt. Used to drive for DPR Racing, now a member of Synergy. Ryan O'Sullivan for Evolution Racing Team for a number of years, and now one of the latest additions to Eclipse Sim Sports. Robbie Gibbs and Thomas Freeman side by side for 13th, and Freeman will try his best to get another position here, but it looks like he might have had, that was either a slowdown or redressing the move on Robbie Gibbs. Still, the driver with the most positions gained of anyone. Remember, finishing second in split, or was it third in split 2? He was on the podium at the very least. And not setting a time in qualifying. It's something we've come used to seeing from Freeman, as Jones and Rattray White trade 11th back again. Rattray White ahead on the exit. But this has given a big free kick to Gibbs and Freeman. 24 spots gained for car 470. Very impressive.
Yeah, indeed. One thing I noticed there as we're getting towards the tail end of this race, 200 kilometres, is the amount of marbles building up in some places. So as they were exiting turn 7, going around the outside can work sometimes there, but the marbles have built up something severe. The same will be true of turn 2 here. Same's happening down at the hairpin. Some corners that used to work for around the outside are now getting sort of frozen over and marbled out, if you will.
Yeah, I've noticed particularly exit of turn 4 and or turn 3 rather, and the exit of the second chicane have an awful lot of dirt on them. And now Jared Filsell is back with Hayden Veld, who's still carrying the damage he got from being sent into the wall out of the hairpin by Filsell. I've got to wonder if this is going to work out okay for Veld in the end. We did see quite a number of incidents under investigation from race control, and I'm pretty sure we know what those incidents are.
LB, busy boys. This is Burke, Myers. Albert has caught them. 36.9 on the last lap from Albert, half a second quicker than Burke, and he's been doing that consistently. So, I mean, a podium sure is nicer than finishing 4th, and it is on the card. 7 laps is still a long distance to go around a Grand Prix size circuit.
Yeah, Montreal, one of the shorter, actually, of most Grand Prix venues, 4.36 kilometers in length, and with some pretty high average speeds, so the lap times end up looking quite fast as a result. But Burke, Myers, and Albert all more or less on the same strategy. Albert, of course, with tyres 2 laps fresher than Burke and Myers, so he'll have a slight pace advantage here. Gained about 5/10 on Myers on the previous lap, and look at the speed he's carrying through turn 6.
You can get down in the 36s at this stage of the race, you are flying along, because most drivers are doing 37s, 38s. Tom Freer only got a 39 last lap. Burke gets a little hot into 8, puts you on a compromise line for 9. It'll stay a couple car lengths ahead in this group.
A little bit of a tap in the rear there for Brady Myers. Well, Albert is starting to drive up the intensity slightly in this fight. Got his teammate James Scott not too far back, and Scott has been pretty consistently one of the fastest cars on the circuit as well. Chiefs Esports Club has had quite the interesting first round of 2026. That's a bit narrow there for Berkey, but he'll be able to maintain the spot on the way into turns 1 and 2. Keeping an eye on the gap at the front, it seems like Sean Campbell has gotten a bit more pace back. Emily Jones not quite able to match his lap times on the last couple of laps, so the gap's staying pretty static at about 3.2 seconds. This is the highest battle on the circuit, and it really is where it's at the moment. Myers, I think, is under the most pressure, though.
Yeah, not moving past Wayne Burke just yet. Bo Albert closing in on the both of them. O'Sullivan and Freer change spots, I think. O'Sullivan's flying along pretty well, and I'm noticing that might be Wayne Burke's deliberate line to straddle the curb and almost hook the inside tyres on the far side of it. Need to be careful here. This is where Brady Myers went for a dive not that long ago. He thought about it, and it tricks Burke into running a little bit deep. So
Bo! Ooh. There was a bit of a late turn in there, and I think a bit of over-rotation, so he's not really a part of the battle anymore for the moment.
What do woodwind instruments have to do with this race?
I don't know. I'm sure you're going to tell me. Oh, oboe. I see. Yeah, okay. Well, couple of claps for you, Haynes. You got your pun in. Congratulations. Well, now Rattray White and Thomas Freeman will continue their fight. Rattray White looking a little bit substandard on the front end, thanks to the numerous little dings and dents that he's gained over the course of this race. I'm really interested to see that Freeman still technically a little faster than Rattray White, but his tyres are almost past their best. Ryan Borg faster than the both of them, and he has the oldest tyres in that trio.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to account for exactly what the damages in Zach Rattray White's car was. It doesn't look too bad for Freeman. And Borg obviously been in one or two things. He's got just a couple of witness marks to a couple 100 kilometres of tin top racing. Scott is catching Albert. Albert's back towards Myers and Burke, so going to get a bit of a pack hunting. Brady Myers wanted that move down the inside of the hairpin on Wayne Burke before we started talking about double reed woodwind, and he wasn't close enough, but then he also pulled it up to not hit Burke. Burke was looking in the mirror, so he's got Burke sort of checking every braking zone. What is Brady Myers about to do? And that's the kind of thing that could then buy Bo Albert and James Scott into this.
All of these drivers running faster than Emily Jones on that lap. The gap is around about 4 seconds at the moment. I don't think there's going to be enough time to overcome Jones who's looking pretty consistent at the moment, though she did tap the brakes on exit there, probably struggling a little bit with tyres that are now starting to reach their zenith. Robbie Gibbs, the next driver to get a 10-second penalty. That was for contact with Ryan Jones back on lap number 39. But there's Jones in second. And here is our battle for the last spot on the podium. 4 cars involved in that one. And I don't know if this is going to be a particularly fast lap for Emily. The gap has come down slightly to half a second has been gained on this lap already from this pack.
Remember, Emily Jones short-filled in split 2. Could be a little short-fueled in split 1 here as well, coming towards the end of the final stint.
Could be. I think, though, herself and Sean Campbell, both with pit stop times of about 22 seconds. So I get the feeling that they might be able to make it to the end. I think they're just taking advantage of the gap they have, maybe save a bit of fuel when they can, if they are in that position. Across the line then, 3 laps remain, and this view back from Wayne Burke sees Myers getting a little bit smaller, but over the course of the twisties, Myers will surely gain a little bit more. Unfortunately, he has to worry about what's behind him, because now he's got 2 Chiefs Esports Club cars right behind him, Albert and Scott, in lockstep effectively. Meanwhile, the battle intensifies between Zach Rattray-White and Thomas Freeman, and Brian Borg rejoins them here, wide out of turn 2 for Rattray-White, and Freeman will, as easy as you like, slip up the inside on the exit of the corner. That's 26 places gained now for Thomas Freeman. Let's see if he holds on to it.
That was great from Freeman. Rattray-White went a little bit wide through turn 2. Freeman got up the inside, and we're seeing that shallow exit from turn 2 actually works really well for these cars. That's where Freeman got to and had the inside for the next sequence. He moves up into 12th. Wayne Burke slow down in 3rd.
Oh dear, that's not ideal for Berkey. He'll have to clear that. Might give half a chance here to Brady Myers, but Burke is staying on the apex, out of the hairpin.
Albert moved Myers around. Myers doesn't get a good exit. Burke still got the slowdown heading down the casino straight. Myers didn't get a good run at him because in the concertina effect, Boel got underneath his rear wing.
Here we go then, pulling out of the slipstream there as Burke finally clears the slowdown, and he's going to let all of them go into the final chicane from 3rd down to 6th. And well, that's a really big blow for Wayne Burke, just a couple of laps from the end.
He wants back in though, versus James Scott. Does not quite get it, but he wanted it. And now more contact. Albert moves Brady Myers out of the way. Myers on the marbles. Albert just got to redress that. I think he is. I think he's going to try.
Yeah, fed him the front bumper, and I think James Scott was aware of the circumstances there. So now it's effectively a double-decker sandwich that the Chiefs cars are in. Let's see if Bo Albert is successful in getting past Myers this time. Fed him the front bumper, but now a move should present itself a bit later on in the lap. This has been such an intense fight, but it's not for the race win. Still got Sean Campbell and Emily Jones a long way ahead of these guys. And thanks to all of this fighting, Jones has managed to get herself a 4-second gap over these cars, which is more than enough to manage when the final lap begins.
Right, another big concertina at the hairpin. Albert's got to look for alternate lines that can still give him a clean exit, because it came unstuck for him at the hairpin and at turn 2, both of those places. He didn't quite know what to do with where Brady Myers was positioning the car. So on this final lap, he's got to find something different and creative if he's got a pace advantage.
White flag in the air. And a big slide for Brady Myers out of the final corner. Albert doesn't get the run though. It all comes down to this. Nice and deep on the brakes at turn 1. Albert finds the apex nicely, so does Myers, and Brady is keeping those tyres on the curb as long as he can for the tightest line through turn 2. It's all about consistency and keeping up the pace here. A little touch of the grass on the way in there for Myers, but somehow he manages to get into the corner all right. Is there any move here from Albert at turn 5, turn 6? Not quite. There will be an attempt from Wayne Burke to get back past James Scott, but it doesn't work out from there. They all need to focus on the exit of the chicane here. Jones, far off in the distance at this point, even further ahead for Sean Campbell. No move to be made here into turn 7 and 8. But coming into turn 10 is the last major opportunity before the slipstream kicks in down the back straight, down the casino straight, you could say. Is that wide? No, that's a late turn in for Myers, and it is wide. There's contact, and Albert spins, and it involves his teammate James Scott and Wayne Burke as well. Brady Myers will run away in third as these guys continue scrapping over what is 4th place now. Into the final corners, though. An absolutely impeccable race from Sean Campbell, who's going to take top honours here in the first round of V8SCOPS for 2026. Brilliant stuff from him. Trans-Tasman Racing will join Grid and Go on the podium with Emily Jones and Brady Myers rounding out the rostrum, but it's a drag race to the line. James Scott versus Wayne Burke, just 200ths in it.
Well, it's perfect strategy from Sean Campbell. He was the first car to pit under the first safety car. More dramas.
Oh, Maloney! Oh, it's been a torrid first round of the new season for the reigning champion. He's going to put it in reverse and go across the line backwards. He really doesn't have a choice in the matter. Big coming together through the final chicane there. Looked like potentially contact behind Zach Rattray-White there, with Blake Warboys, the top of the first group of qualifying, finishing 24th in the end as the celebrations begin for the American in the Grid and Go esports number 26. I mean, I hope that Campbell does the full season, because it's about time we had an international shake-up here.
Well, he leads the V8SCOPS Championship in 2026. It would be tough to step away from that position. And remember how patient he was between about lap 5 and 15.
Yeah,
he sat behind a bunch of cars that hadn't pitted yet. He was the first car to make the call under safety car, and he drove patiently. It opened up for him. Other drivers lost their head a little bit, and Sean Campbell, with the crazy eyes on the Ford Mustang Grid and Go esports car, takes the first win of the season.
That he does. One final penalty to come in there for Rain Campbell. Contact with Dylan Rudd on the final lap of the race. Race control was certainly busy today, but they paid no mind to Campbell, who drove a clean and quick race to win by 4.7 seconds over Emily Jones from split 2 win to split 1 P2. Emily will certainly be a factor this season, I'm sure. Myers completes the podium. Then James Scott, Wayne Burke and Bo Albert sort themselves out, all within less than a tenth of each other at the line. Ryan O'Sullivan gaining 4 spots to finish in 7th. Not a bad run from him. Tom Freer maintaining a top 10 position, finishing ahead of Adam Briggs, who made his way up from 19th. An impressive drive from him. Robbie Gibbs, he did fall back a little, but he still rounds out the top 10 for round 1.
Angus Lawford finishes 11th, plus 20 positions in this race. Thomas Freeman, the big mover, finishes 12th. 26 positions gained from effectively rear of grid minus pit lane starting Darren Lobb. Zach Rattray-White, bit of damage on his Eclipse Sim Sports car. He also could have challenged for a podium today, but ends up in 13th place. Kurt Stenberg in 14th as Ryan Jones in 15th. Picked up a couple of slowdowns, also got bullied a little bit. Some other drivers got penalties for contact with him. He finishes in the middle of the pack here, ahead of Brian Borg. Bit of damage on his Mustang, but plus 16 across the race. Matthew Bowler in 17th. William Sapstead in 18th. Russell Pepperell in 19th. And Dylan Rudd had a drive-through earlier on. The Chiefs Esports Club driver finishes 20th.
Jake Maloney could have gotten a top 15 at least by the end of that one, but a very dramatic race beset by many troubles for reigning champion. His title defense starts off with a 21st place finish. Rain Campbell in 12th place, but the 5-second penalty he'll be receiving from race control put him behind James Chastaneuf in the end. Blake Warboys finishes 24th ahead of Jamie Dyke, who also made up double digits for positions from 35th to 25th. Darren Lobb started from the pits, but a solid drive up to 26th spot. Did gain some damage along the way. It could have been a little better, but I think that's almost the best case scenario we could ask for, with Paul Young finishing just behind him. Jared Filsell, 28th place. He started on pole, but the final stint of the race did not go very well for him. He'll have to settle for just inside the top 30 with William Brown and Will Buchanan rounding that out.
Last cars across the line, last one on the lead lap was the significantly damaged Hayden Veld. 4 laps down for Brett Loxton and Jake O'Reilly. 5 laps back for Jordan Mazzaroli, and it is retirements for Luke Rosella, Seth Brown, Sam Blacklock, and Kobe Jones. A punishing split one race to open the season for some of our big name drivers at Montreal.
Indeed. Well, we're going to we need to remember, though, that Brady Myers did receive a 5-second penalty earlier on in the race, and it's unclear if he served that. Race control for the moment doesn't think he does. It doesn't think he did. So it looks like Myers may end up losing that podium to James Scott. We'll have to... He'll drop back to 6th in the end as a result of that, but I'm sure we'll see Sean Campbell celebrating his victory here. He now joins us in the Grid and Go number 26. Excellent drive, Sean. You were quick and consistent in qualifying. All came down to trying to play that strategy. You were stuck behind Hayden Veld for quite some time there, but did that end up working out in your favor?
Yeah, I think so. I just kind of tried to fuel save as much as possible in order to get just like a shorter stop. And then, speaking of the stop, I almost bended again in the pits. I missed my box by like a millimeter. But
yeah,
I probably lost like half a second for that, so that's not too bad. But yeah,
ultimately,
I've learned my lesson. I won't do it again.
Fair enough, fair enough. Ultimately, the final stint of the race did work out in your favor with dramas for your closest competitors further back in the field. It was just a case of managing the pace from there.
Yeah, I think so. It was once I saw that stuff was going down, even still with the like coming out of the pit lane still ahead, it was just a matter of like let them do their thing, you know? Just quietly try to keep the tires alive and sneak away, which I think worked out.
Yeah, well, you're in P1 in the end, so I think the answer is conclusively yes, it did work out. You're going to lead the championship coming out of round 1. You ran a part-time campaign last season. Can we expect you to commit to the full season in 2026?
That's the plan for now, at least, yeah, because these cars are awesome, and, you know, I kind of bummed out that I missed so many of these races last time, but yeah, no, I think I should stick around this time, hopefully.
International flavor with not just yourself being American, but Grid and Go, a massive competitor on the international sim racing scene. Is there anyone you want to thank in association with that before we let you go?
Well, firstly, I want to thank Connor and Sam, right? Because without them, without like the Orbit guys, I wouldn't know about SCOPS, or I wouldn't have been in SCOPS. I knew about SCOPS, but Connor spotted tonight, and he was awesome. And then, yeah, I guess the guys at G&G, because they let me drive for him, which is awesome. And yeah, I'm happy to just happy to race, you know, just happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you here. Sean Campbell, race winner from Split 1 here for the first round of V8 SCOPS for 2026. On that note, we'll be going to Emily Jones, stood by with David Haynes.
Yes. Second place joins us, but also from the podium on Split 2 to the podium in Split 1. Big day of Montreal for you, Emily.
Yeah, lots of Montreal laps out of nowhere a little bit. So yeah, it was fun. Good to get on the podium from 20th or something. I think it's my best ever result in SCOPS. It just extremely random, but not bad.
Practice makes perfect. Talk us through your strategy. Early safety car, about 2/3 of the field went for that. And that was your strategy too, and it shook out pretty well. Obviously, the seas opened for you at some point through the strategy.
Yeah, I think those early safety cars, like as long as you're in the window to make it home, I don't want to roast the people who didn't pit, but I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. Like in these races, when you have two CPSs, you always want to clear a CPS no matter what under safety car. So I was surprised that so many people stayed out. I thought it was really strange. But then, yeah, after that, I just tried to avoid shunts. I think last time I raced here was last year and I got about 7 slowdowns. So I was just really scared of the same happening. So I just drove around and I don't think I even passed anybody. Like I started 20th and I just drove around and ended up second. So not bad.
It's the best days, and certainly there's some other people that are going to learn what you learned last year about the slowdowns. So about the timing of that safety car, from where you were, it seemed like there was plenty of time to react and make the decision.
Yeah, to be fair, like half of the grid were past the pit entry when they called it. Like Jared and all of those guys were that they couldn't have done anything. They got really bad luck. But I was in a pack with like 4 or 5 cars, and like 2 of us pitted and the other 3 stayed out. And I was like, we had the length of the straight to decide. I don't know what everyone else is going on. Maybe they were thinking like if there's another safety car later, they'll pit then. But yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. But oh well, works for me.
How important is teamwork going to be this season? We've seen Chiefs come together with 4 cars. We've seen some teamwork from Eclipse today. You've obviously got some people you can bounce ideas off and chat with. Is that mega important or just a nice thing to have in your back pocket?
Yeah, it's super important. Like I think we as a team we really push each other to get better. And I think we were not this sounds kind of like a flex now that we're on the podium, but like we were not very fast today, I think, as a team. TTR, we didn't put in a huge amount of effort for this race compared to what we normally do. I think we got really lucky with a lot of things today, but yeah, we put a lot of work in, especially for the Pro V8 series, into setup and stuff like that. I think we're really good at strategy. I think we often excel at that. So yeah, it's ultimately a sim racing team it's great to have people to build setups with, but I think the main thing is just like friends to do laps with and just jump on and spend hours chatting while you do circles online. That's the main thing.
Well, you've done 50% more circles than everyone else today on your way to the podium. Congrats, and there is plenty more kilometres of racing to come in SCOPS this season.
Yeah, thanks.
Fantastic stuff from Emily Jones today, and looking forward to seeing what she can do for the season going forward. That's going to conclude our broadcast effectively. But we are going to keep an eye on the full schedule for this championship. If you enjoyed what you saw today, well, we've got many rounds of racing still to come here. Tonight, of course, was Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. We're going to be going for a 3-week break or so until we go to round 2 at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Beautiful flowing circuit. All of the season dates are right here on your screen. So take a screenshot, put it into your Google Calendar, or however you keep track of your sim racing broadcasts, and make sure that you're here for every single round. It's going to be really interesting to see how next round goes, David, because Motorsport, quite the classic circuit. We have had plenty of great racing here over the years, but I think it's going to be slipstream central, to say the least.
Absolutely. There's another high-speed circuit, but instead of tight, slow chicanes, it's a lot of really fast, long corners, another high tire wear track. Looking forward to it because the adrenaline is already going for V8SCOPS in 2026.
That it is. It's good to be back. And, well, with Sean Campbell coming in and making himself known, announcing himself onto the scene once again after his part-time campaign last season, I'm very interested to see what he can do for the whole season going forward. Staying in Canada for the first 2 rounds of the season. Hopefully we catch you all on Sunday, March the 22nd at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Round 2 at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes alongside me in the comms box, Jay Kennedy producing behind the scenes here on SimSpeed TV. Whichever platform you found us on, we thank you for sticking with us and we hope to see you again very, very soon. From all of us here, it's bye for now.